Welcome, everyone. This is your friend, the DN What If, here with another exciting fanfiction. Today, we're diving into the story of What If Deku Could Talk to the Dead? If you enjoy this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more fanfiction content just like this. Now, let's get started with the fanfic. Izuku knew his quirk when he turned 4, at least a part of it. He first saw the threads that connected people, all different colors for different meanings. Then it was the faceless white-haired man in the corner. The man scared him, probably because the only defining feature looks like his own. "Mama, there's a faceless man in the corner." Izuku pointed to the man with no skin on his face and blood staining every inch of his body. Izuku could barely tell what color the man's clothes were. The only thing that stuck out was the snow-white hair he had. Inko looked to where her son was pointing and saw nothing. This couldn't be a quirk. She knew that her little boy was quirkless. They had the test done to prove it. She crouched down to her son's eye level, staring into the same color eyes of her own, if only brighter. "Honey, it's not okay to lie. I know you were hoping for a quirk, sweetie, but lying won't get you anywhere in life. And you have it hard enough as it is." He supposed Mama was right. He was quirkless after all, but Izuku knew better. The skeleton with a deer skull with flora intertwined with their bone-white antlers along with an eyeless raven on its shoulder. The deer skeleton man was always there, just standing there in the corner of Izuku's view. Ignore the raven ever did anything, they were just there. The worst day of his life was when Mama's thread started to fray and turn a blood red. He knew what that meant. Mama hated him just like his classmates. He supposes it's better than brown. He preferred hate over disgust any day. Izuku was 5 when that happened. Izuku woke up to an All Might-themed room, and the sun shone through the blinds. He rolled out of bed, nearly face-planting. Taking a quick shower and changing, he made his way into the rest of the dead-silent apartment. Inko was already at work by this time. Izuku moved to the fridge, hoping that his guardian went grocery shopping, but once again there was nothing to eat in the fridge. "Looks like that's another thing I need to pick up after school." The words were loud against the silence of the apartment. Even when Izuku spoke softly, every little sound was amplified by the silence. Izuku moved throughout the apartment, grabbing what he would need for the school day, weaving around every spirit, even if very few of his constant companions could be called such. He knew better than to bring his savings with him to school. It would be stolen like everything else he owned. Zipping up his bag and throwing it over his shoulder, he made his way out of the of the living anyways, apartment. Sir Nunnos and Munin, who he named after the Celtic god of the forest and wildlife and one of Odin's ravens. Finding names that the pair seemed to fit them well was hard to find, mostly due to them being non-Japanese. It didn't take long for the usual abuse, and he wishes his eyes never opened to that truth, to start. Bakugu, no longer Kaken, not after he opened his eyes. "Deku!" One of Bakugu's lackeys grabs his bag as soon as he enters the gates. The crimson thread connecting him, the other lackeys, and Bakugu and Izuku. His elongated fingers hook onto the strap that wasn't supported by a shoulder and tugged his old, dirty yellow backpack off his back. The second one with a smokescreen type quirk, blinds him. The final one kicks his leg out from underneath him and proceeds to drag him into the blind spot of the cameras. He doesn't remember much. All he knows is that the bell shrieked and woke him. Checking over the time on his phone, the screen cracked to all hell once again. It's nearly lunchtime, so at least he now knows what the bell was for. "At least they left my bag." His voice is hoarse and scratchy, but his bag's in arm's reach and looking in need of serious repairs, along with his uniform. Grabbing his bag without moving too much as to not aggravate his unknown wounds is a challenge, but not an unfamiliar one. Grabbing the burn cream, gauze, and some needles and thread, Izuku finally checks himself over. He has at least 10 new burn scars, some in the form of handprints, others the familiar starburst shape that litter his skin. There are a few gouges from the lackey with the elongated finger quirk. Couple of bruises make his skin a mismatch of colors, standing out against his copper-colored skin. His ribs might be bruised. Seems that the group didn't have enough time to break them this time, but Izuku knows they'll make up for it as soon as school's out. Finishing patching himself and stripping to the black undershirt he wore underneath his uniform top, he shoves the damaged top into his bag and makes his way to his next class. Only 10 more months and then he's out of this shithole. Inko isn't home when he gets back from shopping. The TV's static as Hina crawls out, her greasy bright blue hair a tangled mess that always covers her eyes. She crawls over to the couch where he sat to get his homework done, for the classes he went to anyways. His longest friend, that's human anyway even if she's dead. Sir Nunno stands in the space that leads from the living room to the small kitchen. Sir Nunno's antlers scratch at the ceiling. Mun-in is roosting on the bookshelf full of random books Inko and his father had collected over the years, along with some movies they used to watch when he was a kid, back when things were okay. Hina sits on the couch next to him, the soft cushion molding to her see-through shape. She leans over his shoulder, long hair brushing his shoulder with a chill. Izuku moves the sheet of work in between them so his friend can see what he's working on. It's English, he explains. Hina's arm stretches out, going through his own with a chill. She points to the sentences and titles her head. Yeah, I'm guessing you don't know English like most of my classmates. I probably wouldn't know it if it wasn't for my dad. The dead girl hums. It reverberates throughout the apartment, seeming to set into the walls. She runs cold fingers through his hair, her sharp nails dragging along his scalp as he finishes up the worksheet before moving on to the next. The pair keep this rhythm going until Hina taps him and points to the time. Izuku cleans up his homework, shoving it into his bag for tomorrow. Thanks, Hina. You want to stick around for dinner? The white-haired boy asks, even though she can't eat anything he enjoys her company. He enjoys all the ghosts' company, well at least everyone but the white-haired man and the bride. He's gotten lucky with not seeing them too often. He picked up a few instant ramens and onigiri that should last the week or so, from the 7-Eleven down the street. Grabbing one, a random, beef-flavored one he notices. Making the quick meal doesn't take long at all. So he sits on the couch and watches the news as he repairs his uniform, along with noting down any information on the heroes and their quirks, along with the villains he can gather from the news story. Hina sits next to him, a cold, comforting presence in the quiet and low-lit apartment. He throws his empty ramen in the trash and heads to bed, Sir Nunno's and Mun-in following like loyal steeds. Hina already crawled back into the TV and the ghost out in the hallway hasn't started to scream yet. He might be able to get a couple of hours of sleep. He shouldn't have jinxed himself. Only 3 hours passed before Haruto Sato, the neighbor who used to live in apartment 5D, 2 doors down. He was killed long before Izuku moved in. Tanaka-san told him once she realized Izuku could see her, about how Haruto was killed by a scorned lover. Izuku's the only one who hears his screams and pleas. Well, the only living one who can hear. Pushing himself out of bed, he moves to his computer and searches about any new debuting heroes and writes everything he can find about them down. He does this for a couple of hours, given how much time passes on the computer's clock. Closing the notebook and reshelving it, the young teen grabs his languages notebook and studies until the morning dawn starts to leak through his blinds. He cleans up from his late-night studying, changes out of his clothes into his now-repaired uniform. Inko is leaving as he enters the kitchen. The thread connecting them has been fraying over the years, only a few fibers even linking them now. It's better if it just snapped already, not as it would hurt much. Hina was sitting on the couch. He ignores the white-haired man and the bride in the corner of the living room. If he doesn't acknowledge them, he'll get left alone. Only if that worked with his classmates. Izuku spaces out for most of the day, only taking down notes when needed and not doing much else. He's almost done, now nothing needs to go wrong and he can get back to the apartment. Well, I know you all want to be heroes. The teacher shouts, causing his classmates to fire off their quirks. Don't lump me in with these extras, teach. I'm the best one out of this entire school. And there's Bakugu. Oh, Midoriya, aren't you applying to U.A? Sheet. How did the teacher find out? He kept that a secret. He made sure. Bakugu shoves him against the wall, popping off explosions close enough to let the sparks burn Izuku's face. At least Bakugu isn't letting off a strong explosion on his face again. Those face scars are hard to cover up. Shitty Deku. You can't apply to U.A, you're quirkless. All I was going to do was try, there's no harm in it. You shouldn't try at all. I'm the only one from this shitty school who's getting into you. Alright, boys, enough roughhousing, you're still in class. The teacher finally steps in and roughhousing? Please, Izuku hasn't roughhoused with Bakugo since the day he was assumed quirkless. He makes his way to the roof after school. Not many people come up here. It's the only space Izuku has at the school, and of course, Bakugo had to ruin it. You know, there's a way you could become a hero, Deku. Just pray for a quirk in your next life and take a swan dive off the roof. He hated how appealing that sounded. He cuts under the overpass to get home quicker. Gods forbid Inko gets home before him. His music was blaring, blocking out his brother-turned-bully's words, and what he did. He wishes he hadn't had his earbuds in. Sorry kid, I need a skin suit. As soon as those words are uttered, his throat and lungs are filled with slime. They burn. Everything burns, to be honest. He can't breathe. He's not going to last long. Maybe 5 more seconds. Everything goes black. Young man, are you all right? Someone's talking in a booming voice. Why do they have to be so loud? I'm all right, sir. Izuku opened his eyes, slowing, letting the light filter through. The first thing he did was find his even constant trio of companions, and once he located them, Velis won his left and Cernunos and Mun in on the man's right. Speaking of the man, that was All Might. The #1 hero. He could still be a hero. He was never quirkless, but he still feels like it. I must be going, young man. Villains wait for no one. All Might was about to take off, so Izuku lunged and grabbed. Young man, this is excessive. You need to let go. All Might tried shaking him off, but he held on tighter. If I let go, I'll die. All Might lands soon after that, and Izuku shoots his shot. A woman standing behind and left of All Might. She was nearly as tall as the blonde man, with black hair and gray eyes. Her stomach had a large hole in it that Izuku could see through. Can someone without a quirk be a hero? He didn't expect the #1 hero to be replaced by a small skeleton man that looked strikingly like All Might, who sneers at him and stares at the scars that cover his face and skin. Kid, you look like you can barely protect yourself, let alone someone else. I mean, you'd probably die on your debut. If you even get that far. I'm the #1 hero and I've almost died. How do you think you'll survive if even the #1 hero has trouble? All Might lifts his shirt to show over a crated side. You're a fool, Yagi. You were once quirkless. Your literal catchphrase is that anyone can be a hero, you hypocrite. And All Might does get going, simply leaving a traumatized boy in need of medical care on a roof, alone with no way down. All Might was quirkless? But he was the #1 hero, and had super strength. When did he get the injury? Is that why he was seen less over the past 5 years? But Toxic Chainsaw couldn't have done that much damage. Nothing adds up. Izuku waited until night, simply people watching and trying to guess what quirks they had to pass the time. He did not need to write it down as he wasn't going to be around much longer. As soon as the stars were in the sky, Izuku took his clunky red shoes off, wrote a quick note, and fell. At least he'd be at peace now. The first thing he heard was a voice, but he's supposed to be dead, so how can he hear a voice? Opening his eyes, he found that he was in an endless void-like space. A 9-tailed fox woman was sitting next to him, lifting his head. The kitsune smiles at him. Hello, little fox. I was hoping you'd enter the void through other means. But you're here now and there's not much any of us can do to change that. I'm Velis. I wish we were meeting under better circumstances. What are you talking about? How am I not dead? Velis brushes some of his hair out of his eyes before speaking again. The void is a place where your quirks are stored. And yes, you have more than one. You got the quirk that allows you to see the dead, spirits, and other horrors of the world from your great-grandmother on your mother's side. While the immortality quirk had evolved from a longevity quirk your mother's father had. You also inherited your mother's quirk. The 4th and currently final quirk was passed down from your father. One was the quirk your mother knew and that was on record, fire breathing. While the 4th is his true quirk, known as All for One, a quirk that can take and give other quirks. Izuku swears his brain blue-screened when Velis finished her explanation. But then how was I diagnosed quirkless? He sits up, with Velis' help, and faces Velis, his limbs still bent every which way and blood pouring out of his head sluggishly. He can't see out of his left eye, and can't feel his legs. Velis' golden eyes look sad but hold no pity, which is a surprise to Izuku. The testing the doctor used was severely outdated, little fox. What that man should have done were blood tests, as they were more reliable than a simple X-ray. I am truly sorry for you having to go through such things. And I know getting used to having a quirk, let alone multiple, will take time. Which is what the void and its inhabitants are here for. But even when I just had my first quirk, I still felt quirkless. Is that ever going to go away? I'm going to guess that it won't. One simply cannot leave behind 11 years of abuse just because they now fit the new standard of society. I'm guessing I won't have to die every time to get here given your earlier statement. And does time move here? How many spirits or entities live here? Is the space actually infinite or just nearly? Velis laughs at his fast-paced questions. Her laughs sound like bells chiming, much better than the harsh jeers he's used to hearing. Breathe, little fox. And no, you may come here whenever you wish. You can also be pulled if the situations are dire enough. And there isn't a solid number for us, I suppose everything you can think of and more. You may never meet them, but they are here. Yes, the space is infinite. It'd be hard to house multiple eldritch horrors like Cthulhu if it wasn't. And no, you cannot meet him. Izuku slumps. But why not? His voice is high-pitched as he whines. Velis taps him on the back of the head, not like Bakugu's harsh hits, softer like a mother chastising her child with a soft love tap. He hates that he still flinches, even when it doesn't hurt. Because he will drive you insane and you're not allowed to be completely unhinged until you're 20. Izuku looked down at his bloodied hands. So, how do I go back, and will I look like I just dropped 10 stories onto concrete? Velis points to a doorway, made of stone and around 10 feet tall. It seems based on Greek architecture, which is surprising as Izuku lived his entire life in Japan, although he always wanted to travel. Walk through there until you get a better grasp on how the void works. And no, your injuries will be healed, without scaring. And any scars you didn't gain through death won't be healed, sadly. That's the best he could get, he supposed. It's better than being covered in more scars before you, without a way to explain them. Stepping through the archway, his body corrects itself by snapping every broken bone into place, drawing the split blood back into the body for the heart to pump once again, then nothing. Izuku wakes on the sidewalk outside of the building Ald left him on. As much as he wants to rip apart the posters of the man, he knows even the most basic of merch will sell for a good amount. And if he kept around the collector's items until the butt retires? Well, he might not have to work for a couple of years. If he could even get a job. His entire body's sore and his socks are wet and make a disgusting sound when he moves. Izuku, where have you been? As soon as he steps through the door and his shoes are off, Inko's shouting and using her quirk on him. He wishes he wasn't so light. Inko slams him into the wall a few times, denting the sheetrock in the process. He can feel his bruised ribs start to break along with his burns and cuts getting aggravated with the harsh movements. His cuts start to bleed again, staining the wall crimson. He feels his heart being pulled. He hates that she's a nurse. She knows every trick in the book to toe the line between keeping alive and killing him. He's still useful after all. She won't get the extra cash from the government or child support if he's dead. He knows it's the only reason she hadn't just ripped his heart out when he was misdiagnosed. I got caught up in a villain attack, Mom. It doesn't matter if he tells the truth or not, every word that is out of his mouth is a lie when you're quirkless. A quirk doesn't change 11 years of abuse after all. The slap that reverberates off the pale cream walls doesn't surprise him. It doesn't even sting. Stop trying to get attention, you little sheet. You're not worth anything by a check. Katsuki got seriously hurt and you just lied to my face about getting caught up in a villain attack? You'd be dead and I'm not that lucky. Inko lets go of her quirk and he drops onto the hardwood floor. There's a new bruise. He doesn't know how long he sat there for. All he knows is that Inko left soon after. It's been a near month since Inko left. He's still lucky to be living in the apartment, better than the street, even if he's awoken by screams every night on the exact hour Haruto died. He'd just like one day of peaceful sleep. He might as well watch the stars if he doesn't get that. He makes his way to the roof in record time. Now for some peace. Hey kid. Izuku whips around, ready to throw a shitty punch and book, but the guy in front of him has a half-skull mask. He notes it's a human skull along with a black jacket with golden embroidery of wings on the back. The guy's half turned to him, along with a golden scythe on the shoulder and other bits of embroidery he can't see well. The guy's also artist gloves, which cover the ring finger, a 5-finger quirk then? But what is it? You alright? You really shouldn't be so close to the edge. No. I'm fine. I was just watching the stars. The guy snorts and lowers his hood. He has bluish-gray hair and red eyes like Bakugo. Sir Nunnos was towering over the vigilante guy, because what else would he be? Munin moved to Izuku's shoulder for the first time. It was hard to school his face into an expression of aloofness. Velis was on the other side of the vigilante, who takes a seat next to him on the ledge. Yeah, the stars are pretty tonight. You got a name, kid? Can't keep calling you kid. He seems trustworthy, little fox. Velis spoke from behind the guy, Sir Nunnos standing silent beside her. Izuku Midoriya, you have one? The guy snorts. His laugh is dry yet filled with warmth somehow. Yeah, call me Thanatos. You want me to walk you home? It's pretty late. Izuku stands, brushing his pants off. Nah, you need to finish patrol, right? I'll be alright, I know this area like the back of my hand. Thanatos shrugs. Do I want to know how you know about that? Nope. Izuku's tone is way too cheery for that question, and he knows it. Alright Izuku, when will I see you next? When I think it's important. And your name fits pretty well, you know. With those last words, he jumps over the edge and grabs the fire escape halfway down before slipping into his open window and researching whatever interests his brain tonight. It's coding and by proxy hacking. Sir Nunnos had been watching the beans sprout ever since his birth. Always there, a silent companion during some of his chosen's darkest days. He's surprised the little one hadn't broken under the pressure yet. The poor excuse for his sprout's mother finally left, meaning the void's inhabitants could step up. At least until Hisashi gets his head on straight and realizes his child needs help. Thanatos should be able to help with that. Well, guess I'm alone now. Izuku finally spoke after a far too long stretch of silence. Sir Nunnos snorts. Seems like we aren't much to you, are we, Sprout? Said Sprout turns around so quickly that the deer god briefly worries he'll get whiplash. You can talk. Yes, I simply thought it would be better to wait and simply observe than step in when needed. And before you ask, yes, I was going to speak to you after your impromptu trip to the void, but the vigilante beat me to it. Oh, but why take so long? The Celtic deer god sighs. You hadn't shattered yet, sapling. And yes, none of us planned it to get this far. But there were slight requirements, you know. To make sure the universe, along with all of time and space shattering when a child discovers he's unable to die, can take and give quirks along with having multiple quirks. This would have happened much sooner if Inko took her position as a mother seriously, but there's not much we can do to change that. I mean, that's fair. You may be a Celtic god and all, which I wish I knew when I named you, because that feels kinda stupid, but oh well. I do find it funny that you named Munin after one of Odin's ravens when she's eyeless. Why do you think I did it? Izuku's response was with the straightest face and most deadpan voice he could manage when trying not to laugh. It's things like this that makes me fear that you could take over the world just because you're bored. Is that a challenge, CERN? Sir Nunnos felt fear, one of the very few times he has in fact. Gods, this child is going to be a fun one to watch. No, Velis would behead me and mount it onto the mantle if I let you take it as one. Well, that's no fun. I'm gonna head to bed to try and get a couple of hours of sleep before Haruto starts screaming bloody murder. You can do whatever, just don't make a mess. The usual routine of waking up, showering, changing, pulling up his braids into a bun so they couldn't get pulled on, ignore the white-haired man and bride. Make sure CERN and Munin don't try and kill Bakugo anytime the blonde teen bullies him. He's still able to become a hero, just needs an attitude check. Teach Hina anything she wanted to learn, keep his head down and try not to get expelled for still being legally quirkless. Along with visits to the nearby cat cafe for a break, Being held up in the apartment isn't going to do much good in the long run. Hello, can I have an extra-large coffee with 4 espresso shots and a red bean mochi, please? You sure you can handle that much caffeine? The cashier was a short girl with a brown bob. She was too cheery for working in the fast food industry. Yeah, I'm sure. Just give him his DMN coffee and pastry. All he wants to do is pet some cats. Moving out of the line swiftly and picking up his order, the copper-colored teen moves to one of the corners of the cafe that faces the rest of the shop. Can never be too careful with who's coming and going after all. The only person who seemed interesting in the entire cafe was a man with long back hair tied up in a bun, much like his own, who had a calico cat claiming him as a suitable napping space. The guy dressed pretty similar to Izuku himself, wearing a black sweater and gray sweats. He could relate to how tired the guy looked. This went on for a few months, with meeting up with Thanatos when the nights were slow, along with seeing the cat guy at least twice a week, Monday and Wednesday. Around 3 months after Inko left, and only 7.5 months until the entrance exam, Haruto woke Izuku up at 2 in the morning on the having studied everything he could at the moment and wanting to get out of the apartment. Izuku grabbed a pair of black cargo pants, combat boots that he 5-fingered, custom-made would be too much money, along with a dark purple hoodie, made his way into the kitchen, and stuffed 2 water bottles along with some snacks into his backpack, hefting it over his shoulder and locking up the apartment. Finally seeing what Haruto looked like was a slight shock. His screaming neighbor was covered in his blood, most on his face pouring out of his head wound, while his guts were strewn about the floor. Blue eyes stared into the teen's soul, bright red hair darkened by dried blood, making it look brown. Weaving his way around the hysteric spirit, Izuku let the man, knowing he couldn't do much for him at the time. Making his way up to the roof of the shop next door and decided if he was going to wander, might as well get some parkour training out of it. Stopping for a break on top of a small poetry shop, Izuku ate an granola bar and had some water. He didn't need to pass out mid-jump. He didn't need to have Velis set at him for snapping his neck due to exhaustion. Might need to start jogging to school for endurance. Maybe do an obstacle course on Takoba Municipal Beach. Might be able to find some good supplies for the support course exam. Plus, it'd be good strength training even if I'm on the more lean side and can just punch my way through things like most heroes do. A small amount of muscle would still do some good. Sir Nunnos and Munin always went out with him on his nighttime wandering, just to make sure he'd be alright. And the company was always nice. Sir Nunnos was laughing at him. It sounded like a mix between bird calls and rolling thunder. You think planning this out is funny, huh? I'm sorry that I don't want my butt kicked as soon as the sports festival comes around because I only started training once I got in. It's better to have a rhythm and be used to the workout, even if I'm only going to be in support or general ed. I don't think it's funny at all how far you're willing to plan sapling. I simply find your mumbling amusing. Oh, most people hate it, so I got muzzled for it in school. It's why I hate the quiet. Munnin cause, bringing the pair's attention to Eraserhead, he was easily recognizable once you knew what to look for. You alright, kid? You keep talking to thin air. Oh shit. He's not used to people noticing. How does he explain this? You can tell the truth, simply give a fake name if he asks for one, sapling. Thanks for having the brain cell, Sir Nunnos. Saved his butt there. Yeah. I'm fine, it's just my quirk. It's called sight. Eraserhead sits on the ledge next to him, humming. That still hasn't answered my question, kid. I may be able to help, voiding. Munin's voice cuts through all the half-formed plans flying in his brain. We can talk in my head? Yes, we all thought you would have figured it out by now, but I suppose you've had other things taking your focus. Are you just going to be a D- or help out? Don't make me withhold the seed ball, Mun. Instead of answering the boy's question and threat, the eyeless raven simply forms out of the shadows themselves and makes herself known, pointing to said raven who has made a nest out of his hair. I was talking to her. She's a friend and part of my quirk. Smooth one, voiding, smooth. Alright, kid, just stay out of the dangerous parts of the city after dark, okay? And with those simple words, the underground hero was gone once again. Izuku scoffed. I'm not afraid of the dark, or what waits in it, Eraser. Haven't been for a long time. He made his way to Takoba Municipal Beach, or as the locals know it, the dump. Izuku had been cleaning it bit by bit, mostly leaving the closest mountains of trash closest to the stairs untouched, except for a few supported tunnels that lead through the maze of trash to the large clearing he made. He didn't want other people using his space when they hadn't cared for it themselves. The beach is his and his alone, or it was until May showed up. The pink-haired mad scientist showed up during Izuku's second week of cleaning up a haven for himself and any other outcasts that might drift by. She was interesting company, and still is for the matter. It just took a while to get used to talking to another living person, one his age for the matter, after 5 months with only those who were dead or older than him to talk to regularly. He was pleasantly surprised and confused when May didn't up and left, like Inko and Dad did, when she found out his quirk status. The change of pace was nice but made him tense in waiting for the novelty of a quirkless kid in this generation and the other shoe to drop. He knows it will, even if he wants to the better of May. What babies are we making today, Zoo? I still need to work on the jetpack for the exam. May was already covered with dirt and grease, overalls questionably stained. Izuku moved to sit beside her, grabbing what he would need to work on Thanatos' new gloves. They were able to retract at the finger pads so he wouldn't waste precious seconds in a fight trying to take gloves off. A simple button press would do it for him now. He didn't want to lose the only decent adult figure he's had since his dad. I'm going to put the finishing touches on Nance gloves. I want to get them to him as soon as possible. The prototype only works for so long. Alright, we heading back to your place for dinner or mine? Your place, your mom's ordering Thai tonight, right? He moved a few of the gears and rewired a couple of things, making sure to keep an eye on the spacing. Up. She's going to make you spend the night, no. I had a feeling. Putting the finishing touches on the gloves and cleaning up his station didn't take long. Izuku did a few runs through the obstacle course, bringing his time down to 5 seconds. He could find a speed quirk to copy over sure, but he wanted to practice without, so he wasn't simply relying on the quirk. Dinner at May's was always chaotic. It was everyone for themselves, good luck at trying to be civilized. The only rule for dinner was that showers had to be taken. Haru, you little sheet. Give me the red curry. Akina threw a pillow at Haru, trying to grab her dish of curry. Ayako grabbed the dish before Haru face-planted, handing it to her twin. You think this was the first time Akina had red curry? Boten commented, dishing himself a portion. Says the but who at all the pad thai. Akina activated her quirk, scare, which makes those who make eye contact fear her. Keep that up and I'll trash your painting. And once again, Akina had struck the fear of God into someone. Boten gasped. You wouldn't dare. Wanna bet beach? As funny as it was, Izuku knew he should put a stop to it before the table got flipped. Again. Okay, enough you two. If you want to kill each other, don't do it in sight of Dai. The white-haired teen pointed to the youngest of the Hadasum clan, Dai, who was 3.5. The two warring siblings moved from the table and deeper into the house, most likely going to the gym to beat the ever-loving sheet out of each other. Collecting the dishes and grabbing Dai from her high chair, Izuku moved into the kitchen proper and placed the stack of dishes in the sink. Let's find Pops and get you a bath, Missy. He tickled the toddler's stomach, making her giggle. Said toddler was covered in bits of her dinner, clothes stained with sauce. One of his favorite things about the Hadasum family was the house. For one, it was large enough to fit everyone and their needs comfortably, but still cozy. And it was never quiet, but the best? There were no spirits, meaning. He got to enjoy the living for once. Knocking on Fudo's workshop door, Izuku entered with light steps. The patriarch of the family, but not the head, that went to his wife, Jin. The pink-haired man put down the pair of bracers he was working on and turned his full attention to the boy he considered a son. Hey kiddo. I'm guessing it's bath time? Izuku hummed. Yeah. I'm going to check on Akina and Boten and make sure there's no hospital run tonight. The older man laughed. It was deep and rang like a hammer on steel. It fit him well. He took Dai from Izuku, and the toddler slapped a messy hand onto her father's cheek. Alright, go do some damage control. Fudo probably didn't mean damage control, as, I'm giving you free rein to beat the sheet out of my kids. He really should have been more clear, to be honest. Akina had a busted nose, At least a bruised rib, along a broken finger. The most Botan gave her was a few bruises. Botan was worse off. He had 3 broken fingers, a couple of bite marks from where he didn't dodge quick enough, and a bruise on his head where Izuku slammed it into the mat. Akina, what have we learned today? The younger girl, by only a few months, sheepishly rubs the back of her neck. I'm not supposed to bite during spars, only the real-world application. What else? Don't piss us off the green bean, Botan adds, earning a smack across the back of the head. Not the point, but that works. Now go get cleaned up for bed. I'm gonna check on Mei then head out. Izuku makes his way to the garage, avoiding explosions as he goes. Hey Mei, I'ma head out. Check on Thanatos and all that. Take some of the leftovers home if you're not sticking around, Zoo. Izuku hums, making his way out and grabbing whatever is left from the hellspawn. Where do you think you're going, Izuku? Jin had caught him. Home, I don't want to overstay my welcome. And I have leftovers, I'm good for a while until I need to cook. The cream-haired woman had a hand on her hip and a look that said she might drag him back into the house and a bed if she didn't like his reason. Jin knew what a losing battle looked like. She had 10 creative, chaos-making kids. You learn a thing or two. Alright, but I'm going to send Mei and Dai to check in by Thursday. They both knew what she meant. The teen gives a 2-finger salute. I hear you loud and clear, Jin. The older woman ruffles his hair. He's proud of himself for holding back a flinch. He knows neither Jin nor Fundo wants to hurt him, but some habits are hard to break when they've kept you alive. Izuku doesn't want to break his survival habits. It means he'll end up dead, even if it's only for a little while. Izuku made his way home in record time. Passing Tanaka-san on the way up, he waves to the old landlady. She was one of the few dead residents of the building who didn't die in a gruesome way. She just simply passed away in her sleep. Have a nice time out, dear? Yeah, I got a free dinner out of it, so I'd say it went pretty well. The elder hums. Kano's expecting rent on the 1st of next month, dear. Thanks for the warning, Tanaka-san. Have a nice night. He makes his way into the apartment quickly, not even sparing Haruto a glance. Locking up behind him is second nature at this point, slipping his shoes off as he does so. I'm home. Hey, Hina, sorry I was gone most of the day. He smiles at the younger girl. She was only 9 when she died. Izuku's glad the BSTRD's in jail. Even if he's her father. And puts away the leftovers. There's a knock at the door. Which strikes Izuku as odd. His neighbors don't care for the quirkless kid. Most think Inko's on a business trip anyways. And it's too late for Kano to come for the rent. It's not even the 1st of the month yet. Grabbing a serrated knife that he made, it was the first thing Mei showed him to make after finding him bleeding in an alley due to bullies. Opening the door large enough to slip the knife through, Izuku finally sees who's knocking on his demon door at 9 at night. It's a kid, a bloodied eyeless kid, but still a kid. Mister, can you help me? Izuku kneels to the kid's level. Him being eyeless has to be on the bottom of his list of scary sheet, if it even makes it. What do you need help with, little man? I can't find my mommy. Can you help? Yeah, just let me grab my coat. Izuku reaches out and ruffles the boy's hair. His hand comes back bloody. Odd, if his spirit is still bleeding, that means he died recently, at most a week ago. There might still be a body, and it's never a good idea to show a fresh spirit their corpse. They need to come to terms with their death on their terms. It'll happen, always does. Izuku grabbed the only thing he had left of his father, a long brown trench coat that smelled like smoke and cinnamon. It was the only thing that was left in the apartment after he left. Inko had thrown everything else out and would have done the same to the coat if Izuku hadn't shoved it into the back of his closet. He had no photos of the man. All he knew was that they shared the color and texture of his hair. Okay, little man, let's find your mommy. The teen links a hand with the child. The skin is still warm, like fading embers of a fire. It's a new experience for sure. Izuku's only used to meet the dead when they already know they're dead, so leading a freshly dead is something new, uncertain. He doesn't know how an adult would react. His first experience with this is a child. Most children can't wrap their heads around the concept of others being dead, let alone themselves. Do you know what your mommy was doing before you lost her? The boy nods, a few strands of blonde hair falling into his sockets. She wanted to see Acria at the hospital. He's super sick. The one place he never wants to go is the hospital. For one, he hasn't been treated in one since he was 4, and with being able to see the dead going to a place of mass death, and with the causes varying from spirit to spirit, it's just never a good idea. Taking a breath, Izuku prays to whatever gods may listen. He prays the hardest to Thanatos, Hades, and Anubis, that he doesn't have to get anywhere in at least a mile radius of the hospital. It doesn't take too long to get to the death site, maybe 15 minutes with a quick train ride. It's closer to the hospital than he would like, but maybe he won't have to go in. Izuku kneels, meeting Aichi's height. He notes that the name means wisdom and that this boy had a future ahead of him, possibly a bright one. Izuku notes the car, smashed in the windshield with a tree branch going into the back of the car on the passenger side. He hates that his brain already linked the dots, now he just needs to confirm. Making his way around, having Cernunos keep an eye on Aichi, the kid doesn't need to see his corpse, or possibly his mother's. He goes to the passenger side first, and he was right. Aichi's was thrown across the back seat, the branch spearing through the boy's eyes. Now he knows why the ghost has no eyes. His mother is nowhere to be found, which means she's still alive and was brought to the hospital. As he gets closer to the God's Forsaken building, the number of ghosts, and the gruesomeness of injuries, both the lethal and non. He hates how they reach and salivate at him like a piece of meat, and they're starving animals. He supposes they are in a sense. Izuku grips Aichi's hand tighter. He cannot lose the boy. The entire reason he's even getting within a foot of the place is to help the boy. He will not fail, not like he did others. Izuku, why are they staring? The kid's terrified just like him, but Izuku can't show fear. He cannot fail again. They aren't used to being seen, little man. Ignore them, they won't hurt you. They're after me, not a freshly made ghost. Go unspoken, as if he speaks it aloud, it will become truth. Izuku wants the comfort of lies tonight. Entering the hospital in full, the first thing to hit is the bitter, acrid smell of antiseptic. The fluorescent lights burn his eyes and make him look ashen. The smell of rot is mixed in. It brings a small comfort to the teen. He knows a third of the waiting room is dying tonight, or within the week to 2. The pair move with more grace than one would expect from a teen and his invisible package. The receptionist looks up from her nails, her red hair casting a shadow on her face, nearly hiding the disinterest on her face. Yes. He hates her voice. He grates on his ears like nails on a chalkboard. I would like to know where my aunt is. The woman stares daggers at him. Name, kid? Shoji Ami. Mama's name is Shoji Ami. Aichi adds when he notices Izuku can't fill in the blank. Shoji Ami, ma'am. Room 752, 5th floor. Nodding and giving a short bow, Izuku speeds away towards the elevator. Multiple ghosts reach for him, arms gray and bloodied. One is missing his left arm altogether. A couple of brush against him, and unlike the nice comforting breeze which one could compare to a chill summer breeze, these touches strike pain wherever contact is made. He needs to get out of this mass of dead and arms. He needs to complete this request. He can't fail Nari again. Nari's dead, you fool. You already failed her 6 years ago. He can't even smell the bitter antiseptic that burns his nose anymore. All he can smell, taste, and feel is rot. He's relieved Aichi's already dead as he knows the grip he has the younger boy in would bruise. Yanking them both into the elevator as soon as it opened enough to fit his body through. The momentum and force Izuku carried bumped him into a boy his age, with 6 arms and taller than him, most people are, with gray hair and eyes, wearing a blue face mask that covered down to his neck. He looks like Aichi. Big brother Mizo. That's my brother Izuku. Oh, seems that he failed another child in their family. He can't do anything right, can he? Guess he is a Deku after all. Moving past Mizo, he mumbles an apology and presses the button for the 5th floor. The ICU is the entire reason Izuku hates hospitals. It's where many go to die after all. Izuku leads the younger boy to his mother's room as soon as the elevator opens. With one last ruffle of blonde hair, Izuku turns and leaves Aichi to watch over his mother. Okay, little man. This is your stop if you need to hang out anytime, just come on by. He didn't fail this time and it fills him with hope. The first thing Izuku did when he got home was to toe off his shoes, take off his coat, and collapse into the couch cushions. He needs to sleep for a week. Shoyuta was out of good coffee, and in turn in a bad mood. He hates the shitty police station coffee. It's too DMN watery. Tsukachi was about to bang his head against the desk if his face was anything to go by. That white-haired kid is still stuck in his head. It's illogical to care this much about one kid. He reminds him of Oboro. What are you stuck on? The detective sighed. You know that new vigilante Thanatos? They've been running circles around us and there's a kid that's around once or twice. They seem to know each other. The kid has white hair and green eyes and looks about 12 or so. He's always hanging around rooftops, around Thanatos patrol route. Well shit, guess he found the kid. I know the kid. Not his name, but he frequents a cat cafe Monday and Wednesdays. It's called Whipped Cream and Whiskers. He orders an extra-large coffee with 4 espresso shots and some type of pastry every time he comes in. He's there for most of the day on Wednesdays, only 3 hours give or take on Mondays. Tsukachi PPS a brow. You memorized a random kid's order and schedule? Habits of being an underground hero, Tsukachi. Tsukachi hums. Alright, can you talk with the kid at any point? Yeah, as soon as I leave here. He should be hanging around that poetry shop I found him at the first time. I'll ask him his name this time around. Izuku was hanging out on top of the poetry shop again. Thanatos had been dealing with the police and Eraserhead more recently. Seems like they finally caught onto his friend's escapades. Speaking of heroes. Hey, Eraserhead. Still having trouble catching Thanatos? How the hell you know that kid? The older underground hero sat next to him. He hadn't been at Whipped Cream and Whiskers in a while. That's a good friend. Helps out those the heroes don't care about. Well, except for underground. You guys care for us scum. Sheet, he just has to open his big mouth, huh? Scum? Kid, you're not scum. Izuku scoffed, as the 3 shadows he'd gotten used to did the same and kept an eye on the older male, surprised. Izuku always seemed to find those who would do him some good, even if he didn't know it. Bullshit, this entire society views those with weak quirks, villainous quirks, mutant quirks, or gods forbid no quirks as those less than, or don't matter at all. Eraserhead hummed. You're not wrong but still kid, you're a good kid. Quirks are just a tool. Izuku shrugged. Yeah, I know what you're saying but most of society is still headstrong on flashy quirks are. The only good ones. So how did you meet Thanatos? Oh, I was stargazing on my roof. He thought I was a jumper, which I'm not. Izuku made sure to reassure the older male. He hadn't wanted to jump in a while. You alright at home, kid? Oh yeah, my mom just works a lot. I've got friends that come over, or I got over there once or twice a week. Shoyuta noted that the kid was a pretty good liar. He probably would have believed it if he wasn't trained by Nizu. He knows better than to bring it up right now. The kid's opening up, no need for him to lock down again. Ichim, you're aiming for you, right? Up. I plan on possibly doing a triple course in Gen Ed, support, and business. I want to cover all my bases if I plan on helping those in the underground. This kid should never meet Nizu without someone, most likely Shoyuta as he can keep up with Nizu, to chaperone. There was no way in hell these two are meeting alone for as long as Shoyuta can help it. Are you trying to end up dead before your first semesters are over? Heh, as if death would stop Izuku. Don't you dare, voidling. Munin spoke. She guess he can't do that without parameters. At all would be better, you know. Eraserhead chimed in. Looks like he mumbled again. You're not my dad, nor my teacher as you teach class 1A, so you can't do shit about it. Also, my name's Drogo Alaster since you look like you've been wanting to ask this entire time. And with that bombshell, Izuku jumped over the side, grabbed the fire escape, and vanished into the shadows. Holy shit, Drogo's a problem child and isn't even in his class, let alone aiming for it. He fears for Hyazahai, Power Loader, and Midnight if Midoriya goes through with his triple course plan. There's no question in Shuta's mind if the kid will get in, he'd eat his capture scarf if the kid didn't. His patrol was already finished, so he would just drop off what he knows and try to talk to Nizu about this genius that's somehow swept under the radar. Shoyuta has an idea as to why but doesn't want to entertain that thought. Shoyuta made his way home in record time. Hiyashi was laying on the couch with BSD on his stomach. Hey Sho. How was patrol? Shoyuta picked up his husband's legs and sat down before letting go. Alright, didn't catch Thanatos, but I did finally meet the kid from the roof again. Name's Drogo Alaster, he's trying for you, hey, in 3 months. Hisashi sat up, waking BSRD, who ran off to their bedroom. Really? What is the little listener trying for? Every course but heroics. He wants to go for a triple course, which no one's done before. The kid might even strike fear into the rat, who knows? Really? Shoyuta glares at his husband, quirk activated, bringing Zashi's volume down back to normal. Yeah, seems that the kid wants to challenge himself. He also knows Thanatos pretty well, which caught me off guard. Originally thought they just met in passing once, seems like those two meet up regularly. Could he be a vigilante? No, the kid seems the more of the behind-the-screen type. The two men lapsed in comfortable silence with the V being the only noise. Izuku knew he couldn't go under his real name. He told Eraserhead a fake name that Uncle Jiren helped him make papers for. Making his way through the alleys and rooftops to get to his uncle's business, it'd be utterly stupid to sleep in the same place you make deals with those who could kill you without thought after all. It was laughably easy to close to his uncle's place without any of his clients noticing. Making his way down the side of the building, Izuku opened the window and bent his body in a way he probably shouldn't be and crawled just outside his uncle's office. Pulling his leg back and grabbed one of his knives, serrated and hooked so when someone pulls it out, it'd be worse than going in. And kicked the door down, throwing his knife as soon as he had an opening. Hey Yunsi, I need some papers. His uncle's client ducked and the knife hit the wall behind him, making another gouge in the wall. The client has white hair and is textured like Izuku's own, yet instead of Viking braids, it's in a simple braided bun. His eyes remind Izuku of Thanatos, the blood red most pre-quirk people would associate with a vampire. Sorry Yunsi. Didn't realize you had a client. I'll wait outside. The client turned fully to Izuku. He was about 6 feet 8 inches, also the tallest non-quirk-based person he's seen, and was wearing all black with gold accents. Izuku. OF-, how does one of UNC's clients know his name? UNC's careful with personal sheet show how in the F-? He's your father, sapling. Cernus's voice cut through Izuku's panicked confusion. He knows the inhabitants would never lie, they would die before that. He just wants to make sure. Who the hell is he, UNC? Jiren sighs, taking a long drag from his cigar. Your father, Brett. I'm guessing Inko never told ya? Izuku scoffed. Please, she hasn't been home much for a couple of years. She finally left a couple of months ago. She left. His father's voice is cold and he swears he can see embers of a flame flutter out of his mouth. Yeah, I was misdiagnosed as quirkless and still am legally, so it was just a waiting game of when she left, to be honest. So, you're my dad? Where the hell you been? The older male rubs the back of his neck. I've been trying to tear down the commission and reform society-biased views, and by trying to do so, the commission had put a bounty on my head. I had to leave. I would have taken you with me if I knew how Inko would turn out when you were misdiagnosed. Jiren smiled and ruffled his nephew's hair. Alright Brett, what you mean about needing papers? I might have told underground hero Eraserhead that I'm doing a triple course at UA under the fake name Drogo Alaster. So, I need some good fake papers. Possibly might have to put down Jin and Fundo as emergency contacts. It's odd to have none. The gray-haired man grunts, gesturing at the younger with his cigar. Yeah, and what'll you do about that hair? It's distinct. Plans to dye all but the roots and do Viking braids. It's been a while since I've had Viking braids. Jiren takes a draw from his cigar. Alright, I'ma let you know that a triple course load is insane, but then again here you are at 4 in the morning, talking to me. And that vigilante you are always hanging out with was here not too long ago getting papers for the same thing. Your uncle's right, a triple course load is going to be harder than most would be up for, but given you want to go for it, I'm going to. Guess you'd like the challenge. It'd be nice to be challenged for once, given Aldra had been lowering my grades for years. The quirkless can't outdo the quirked kids after all. And no, Dad, you can't just burn down the school, go the legal route. Fine, but you're coming home with me. You need to get a bit more meat on your bones, being that skinny isn't healthy. Plus you need to meet your brother. The reason I took him was that Inko despised his quirk, and he had a hard time controlling it. He's gotten able to pinpoint how much he decays over the years. You may know him as Thanatos. Holy Mother FNG sheet, his brother is Thanatos? As in the super cool vigilante with the decay quirk? I'm guessing Inko didn't like his quirk due to it not being hero material? I remember her ranting when she got drunk about how she was glad that I didn't get a quirk as, no quirk is better than villains. I was pretty confused about why she would be happy about me being quirkless. She hated it any other time. Inko's a heartless beach. Now that got a giggle out of Izuku. His father has left after that, giving privacy for the uncle and nephew to finish up their exchange. I'll get those papers to ya by the end of the week, brat. Now go spend some time with Hisashi and Tamura. You need more family than just the Hatsums, you know. Izuku hummed, a light tune. Yeah, me and Tamura going under the same last name? Makes it easier on me, kid, so yes, whether you like it or not. With the exchange finished and the promise of papers and family, Izuku left his uncle's office and stepped in time with his dad. Holy shit, he had a dad now. He didn't have to remember him by a coat anymore, who had moved off the wall he was leaning on as soon as Izuku stepped out. So, any plans on what you'll do for the partial section of the support exam? Yeah, for support I made Tamura a pair of gloves that have the finger pads retract back into the glove itself at the touch of a button. If he's going for the hero course, he can't waste precious seconds taking off his gloves. People will end up dead. I was wondering how made Tomu's gloves. I'm impressed by how well made they are. What? Someone was impressed with him? No one was ever impressed with Izuku before. The Hatsums don't count. Mei already gushed about him before he even met her family. Oh, thanks. Why are you impressed? All I did was help my brother. Izuku, you didn't know he was your brother at the time. You simply saved someone trying to save the people society doesn't care for. And you made those gloves without expecting anything for them. You helped simply out of your own heart and knowledge of how those viewed less by society are viewed. That's admirable, kiddo. Izuku didn't know how to respond. This whole thing was new to him, so he just nods. Hisashi claps his hands, Izuku flinching at the noise. A minute. Keep that up and you be left alone again. Like you should be, Deku. Hisashi notices but doesn't call attention to it. He knows better than to. Maybe he could recommend his boys go see Hound Dog? Hisashi knows Hound Dog would never hurt children, even though society labels villains. He helps them and builds them better instead. Time to steer the conversation to an easier topic. The father and son duo got into the black car Hayashi owned and started home. What would you like for dinner, Izuku? Oh, sweet potato curry sounds good. I haven't been able to make it in a while. Alright, so I know you were misdiagnosed. So what quirk do you have? I currently have 5. I inherited both your quirks, and yes, I know about one for all and the story behind it. Velis told me once I finally broke her down from pestering her so much. I also got a quirk I named Void from Inko's grandmother, which allows me to see the dead, spirits, and just general horrors of the world. The other 3 are an evolved longevity quirk into an immortality one. Found that out in a roundabout way, that's for sure an Inko's quirk along with your fire breathing. Hisashi was silent for a few minutes. Oh shit, did Izuku just break his dad after meeting him like 10 minutes ago? I never knew all for one could be inherited given that I still have it, but then again it's common for parents and children to share quirks or those close. And don't think I didn't notice that you tested your immortality quirk, Izuku. I would like to talk about that at some point, but only when you're ready. I wonder how it evolved, possibly the boost from AFO? That might need to be tested at a later date. I'd imagine that you got Inko's quirk along with fire breathing just by the time you spent around us. And the doctor you went to used the double joint test. I had a feeling you would want to talk about that, and that's my best guess. But yeah, Dr. Tsubasa used the double-jointed test when he should have done blood testing. But I guess it worked out in the end. Hisashi sighed and pinched the bridge of his nose. Not the point, kiddo. You shouldn't have gone through that. Doesn't matter, it happened and it's going to stay that way as I can't change my legal status given that the whole, I'm a late bloomer, Things stopped working once I turned 11. Alright, we're here. I'll get started on dinner and you can go up and play video games with Tamura. He knows you're coming. I wouldn't throw a knife at his head though. You might kill him. Noted. The house is 2 floors and looks to fit about 4 bedrooms. Making his way inside, Izuku subconsciously catalogued all the exits, even those that most wouldn't consider one. Climbing the stairs, Izuku followed the yelling of his older brother. Seems like he was losing whatever game he was playing. Knocking before entering the room, Izuku was met with a low-lit large room. A futon was in the corner with a 4 monitors set up to the right of it and against the right wall. On the left was every console known to man, even some Izuku didn't know about. Bookshelves lined the walls full of game cases and a plethora of manga that changed genre on a whim based on how they were organized. Hey, Izuku. Good to see you again. Tamura paused the game he was playing, Mario Kart 7, and turned to the younger of the brothers. Izuku waved shyly. Hey, do you like the gloves for your costume? Yeah, I'm going to use them for my official costume once I pass the heroics course. Tamura's hands when clear of gloves. Seems that he only wears them in public as to not scare people? That's something to look into. And his nails were painted a shimmery blue color with the tum painted gold. His hair was damp, must have gotten out of the shower recently. Really? I mean, the first version of them is made out of junk parts, so I'll remake them once I have used quality materials. I'm guessing underground, given the whole vigilante thing. Tamura chuckles. It reminds Izuku of crunching leaves in autumn. Ding, I knew you were a smart kid. Had to be to make the gloves, but able to figure I was plucking underground just based on being a vigilante? No wonder you want to do a triple course. Izuku waved him off and picked up one of the controllers strewn about. Yeah, Dad's making dinner right now and I want to kick your butt in Mario Kart. Tamura scoffed. You're on Zoo. Izuku could get used to having people looking out for him again. Dinner was pleasant, not as chaotic as it was at the Hatsums, but he supposes 3 people can't make as much chaos at dinner as 13 people. At least not at dinner. So, you boys have a month until the entrance exams. Izuku, even though you're not gearing for the hero course, exercising would be a good thing to start up. Wiping his mouth on a napkin, Izuku hummed. I'm already doing training. Mostly stealth, speed, agility, and flexibility with a decent amount of strength training. Just enough to throw a good punch or kick. Once the sports festival comes around, I might try and get into the hero course and do all 4 courses. I've got all the time in the world anyways. Tamura started coughing, taking a drink of water when he could. You're going for all 4 courses by the sports festival? People rarely do 2 courses, let alone 4 zoo. I know you want the challenge and have all the time anyone could ask for, but you need to pace yourself. If you go at the speed you're implying, you'll be down with everything up to 2nd years at the minimum by the end of the 1st year. I'm taking that as a challenge, Tomo. Please don't, Tamura and Hisashi begged. Too late, I'm doing all 4 courses. Tamura dropped his head against the table with a thunk. We've created a monster dad. Hisashi chuckled. It reminded Izuku of curling up near a warm fire with a cup of cocoa. We didn't create him, Tomo. We simply released his knowledge to the world. That makes it worse, somehow. Can we stop talking like I'm going to take over the world by next Tuesday? If anything, I'd go slow with it so it looks like nothing's changing. I spoke too soon. Izuku stood and collected the plates before dropping them in the sink. Tamura moved upstairs as soon as his dishes were collected. Don't even think about it, young man. Go have fun. I can do the dishes, Dad. I'm not saying you can't, Izuku. But you don't need to do everything anymore. A family shares the burden of the chores. Izuku shrugged, terribly confused. He knew that's how other people's families worked, but he and Inko hadn't been like that for years, so this was new and uncharted territory. Might as well go along with it and learn the rules before trying to be himself again. Time to wear the Aldra mask again. Nodding, Izuku moved around his father and up the stairs to his room. Locking the door behind him and shoving the desk chair underneath the doorknob and laid on the bed. Most of his stuff is still in the apartment, meaning he'd have to convince Hisashi to get his stuff. He hopes it's still there, someone new might have moved in. He knew the landlord at the apartment complex disliked him. He took up an apartment he could give to a quirked family after all. He knew he had to get his stuff. Problem was that Hisashi didn't want to deal with him? Why else send him to his room? Getting off his bed, Izuku opened the window and looked out. Yeah, he could make that jump to the tree. Climbing out with his backpack and phone, Izuku made his way down and started the trek back to the apartment. It took longer than Izuku would have liked, but at least he had all his stuff now packed away in a couple of duffel bags. You should have told Hisashi where you were going, Sprout. He cares. Sir Nunnos chimed in. He doesn't care. He just wants to look like a saint for taking in a quirkless CERN. Little Fox, I understand this is new, but he truly does care. Both of them do. Instead of responding, Izuku entered the train which would take him back to his new prison. Home, you fool. It's home. The train ride was a blur. Izuku only knew he was back at Hayashi's when he walked through the front door and was scooped up in a hug. Kiddo, where the hell did you go? I wanted to grab my stuff. I didn't know if the apartment was going to be cleared out or not. Hisashi sighed, a few embers flying out with the exhaled breath. Izuku, you could have asked me and I would have brought you and we could have gotten your things. You scared me and Tamura just vanishing like that. Oh, Inko never cared if he just up and left. It's why he was able to venture out at night without a care in the world. This was new. It wasn't like the suffocating care Inko started with when he was first told of the diagnosis, nor was it the harsh hate. This reminded him of the Hatsums and how while yes they're chaotic, they cared for each other without thought. Was this what family was like? Caring without conditions? Oh kiddo. Just give me a warning next time you want to get out and a general time you'll be back around. Yeah, Dad doesn't need to destroy all of Japan looking for Yuzu. Izuku giggled. He was crying, so it wasn't the best sound in the world. It was better than blood-soaked socks, that's for sure. Alright, I think it's time all of us curl up on the couch and watch a movie, yeah? Hitoshi hated how biased the exam was. His quirk couldn't do anything against robots. He was so happy that he learned self-defense and was able to grab that busted stop sign the explosive Pomeranian busted. He barely scraped by, with only 5 villain points but 35 rescue points. You passed, Toshi. I'm super proud of you. His mama Shinso Rai commented. His mom, Seiki, hugged him tightly. Mom, I can't breathe. Oh, sorry, Toshi. His mom had light blue hair, like the summer sky with amber eyes. She was 6 feet 1 inch and her quirk, called Seer, allowed her to dream walk. Rai on the other hand was only 5 feet 5 inches and had black hair and violet eyes, with black wolf ears and tail. Her quirk called Leakin gave her the traits of a wolf. It's alright, Mom. I'm just surprised I got in. At least I won't have to go the sports festival route now. Rai hummed, dishing out some miso soup and pork dumplings. Did you meet anyone during the exam? Oh, did Toshi make friends? Hitoshi rubbed the back of his neck. I helped a guy. Didn't catch his name, all I know is that he has a decay quirk. Well, let's just hope he gets in. Then you'll know someone in the course. Seiki commented. Dinner was a quick affair. His mama worked the night shift at the museum as security. So she was mostly around during the day and after school, while his mom was around at night. Hitoshi knew Mei was trying for the support course. She'd get in without even trying. He'd be more terrified if she didn't get in. Mei would make a pretty scary villain, most of her family would. The pink-haired girl had mentioned a green bean once or twice. Supposedly he was a kid that cleaned that trash beach. The kid's probably got a strength quirk or something. He should try and get some sleep. Mom would kill him if he ran off of coffee for a week again. Tamura sighed, why robots? Yeah, he could take them down just fine, but still. Most people can't just decay a robot and move on. He's glad Izuku was going the sports festival route. Gives him more time to analyze the hero course kids. Go! As soon as the words left Present Mic's mouth, Tamura was off. He knew better than to wait for speech that the test was starting now. In the field, you had to be ready to go at the drop of the hat. Not when the teacher says ready. Tamura had a decent heading and already racked up 4 points just from 1-pointers alone. The teen knew not to take out every robot insight. He didn't need his fellow testers turning on him for wiping the board of points. And he only needed 40 total to pass anyways. That bit of information took Izuku nearly a week to gain, as he didn't want to get on Nizu's radar before even getting in the door of UDA, or at all for that matter. Bakugo had no care in the world for the other testers, he simply wanted to rack up points. He even shoved a purple-haired kid down. Tamura moved over and offered a hand. Hey, you've got a pretty good idea with the stop sign. I'm guessing a mental quirk. The down boy took his hand, and Tamura pulled him up with ease. Thanks for the help. Looks like the kid wasn't used to being helped. Probably had to do with his quirk. Dismissing the thought for now, Tamura got back into the fray of robots and ashes. He had racked up 50 points in total when the 0-pointer came out. A girl with a short brown bob was stuck under some rubble. He couldn't decay the 0-pointer, might be able to do the rubble. It doesn't matter what he does as long as he does something. Pulling a move that would have him grounded from the upcoming convention, Tamura decayed the rubble and grabbed the girl, tugged her out of the 0-pointer's path. Thank you so much. I'm Uraraka Ochako. Oh god, this girl was way too cheery. Tamura picked at his fingers, decaying the skin slightly. Drogo Kenji, pleasure. With a smile that held too much emotion, Uraraka got whisked away by Recovery Girl. You need healing, Sonny? No, it's just some cuts and scraps. I need to catch up with my brother anyways. Alright then. Tamura Kenji left the testing area and made his way to the support building. Izuku had already taken his Gen Ed and business exam the week before. He still had to wait for his results given he was also gearing for support, but the wait would be worth it. Hey Ken. Izuku, well Tamura supposes it's Alaster now, waved him over. He was with Mei. Hey, you two, how'd the practical go? Oh, power loader like the gloves. He said they could be modified for other 5-finger activated quirks and mutations. Tamura ruffled Izuku Alaster's hair, which was dyed green except for the roots and styled in Viking braids. Mei was covered in grease and by the looks of it gasoline. Did you make the jetpack, Mei? The young mechanic nodded enthusiastically. Up. And it only exploded once. Tamura snorted. Alright, come on you gremlins. Dad wanted me to feed you before we went home, said we all deserved ice cream for trying the exams. Oh, can I get cookie dough? I want a sundae. Tamura waved his hands. Yeah, you can get whatever you want as long as you don't make my wallet cry. With cheers of happiness, the Chaos Gremlins Tamura called younger siblings ran off, speeding away like they both had speed-based quirks. Shaking his head fondly, Tamura jogged to catch up. I'm not going to buy you ice cream if you run off, gremlins, he shouted after them. Mei looked over her shoulder and stuck her tongue out at him. I'd like to see you try, dry lips. Oh, it's on. The 3 Udata hopefuls came home with dopey grins and grass stains. Hisashi laughed at them when they walked through the door. I see you 3 had a game of tag, yeah? The gremlins started it. Did not. You're the one who said not to run off. Mei squabbled. And you're the one who stuck their tongue out at me. Then how did Izuku get his shirt wet? He threw ice cream at me, so I threw him in the pond. Hisashi sighed and pinched his nose. Alright, get washed up and changed. I'll throw those in the laundry. Want takeout for dinner? Yeah. Can we get pad thai? Sure, and don't try and bring the house down, Mei. It took a week for the Udata letters to get there. The family of 3, living anyway, were at the Hatsums and Tamura opened his first. The disc fell onto the table and activated, showing All Might in all his shitty glory. Hello Drogo Kenji. You scored 35 villain points and 20 rescue points, making your total score for the practical exam 55 points. Now, for the written portion, you scored a 78%, which places you in 5th. This is your hero academia, young Drogo. A scoreboard popped up showing the scores of the exam. Bakugo Katsuki was in first with 80 villain point and 0 rescue. Ida Tenya was in second with 68 villain and 10 rescue. Ashido Mina was in third with 50 villain and 5 rescue. The list went on longer, but Tamura couldn't care to scroll through the board. He'll just figure out who were decent people the day off. Oh god, I hate his voice. Tamura recoiled at the volume of All Might's voice and tone. It was like nails on a chalkboard. Well, I placed first in all the written portions and first in the practical for support. Izuku commented. I place second. Hayashi lifted his son onto his shoulders at his comment. My sons are Udata students. This calls for a celebration. The Hadasum clan cheered with the patriarch of the Midoriya family. A party was in full swing not even half an hour later. Jin had ordered every takeout imaginable and all of it was gone by the end of the night. The Hadasums knew how to party, that's for sure. Monday was the first official day of classes. The orientation was something Izuku nor Mei wanted to do ever again. The week before they moved into the dorms, which didn't take as long as Izuku Alaster thought it would. He had a room in each of his course's dorms, meaning he can rotate once a month. Hey, you have homeroom with Power Loader Sensei today, right? Mei asked, poking his cheek. Yup, then I have management and mathematics, then coding and English today, which is more of a free PRD than anything, meaning I could work on Ken's gear. Didn't Ken say that he had heroics today? Alaster scowled. Yeah, and Aldi teaches it. Eraserhead would be a better teacher by far. You're not wrong, from what you told me he'd teach them how to fight Quirkless. Which is good no matter what type of hero you want to be. The pair took seats in the far left corner, Mei on the outside and Alaster on the inside. Mei made sure no one would touch her brother. Most of their class hadn't shown up yet, so Mei took out a fidget cube to keep her hands busy without trying to break into the lab behind them. Alaster had hacked into the cameras just outside the room, tapping Mei on the shoulder 6 times in quick succession when he saw Power Loader come into view. Sensei in 5. He whispered, getting 3 quick taps and 2 slow taps in response. Oh, I didn't realize I would have students come in so early. Mind telling me your names? Hadasum Mei and Drogo Alaster, Sensei. Mei spoke for both of them, Alaster watching the cameras and door for their classmates. Power Loader sighed. Right, the 2 kids who got first and second. Hey, Drogo, how are the other renditions of the gloves coming along? Alaster hummed, tapping 3 times on his desk. He means good sensei. He's not really in the mood to talk today. That's alright, everyone on staff knows JSL due to present mics, so there'll be no trouble communicating. The bell rang with a shriek, spooking Alaster. Luckily he didn't jump, just a flinch. Mei grabbed his hand and squeezed it 4 times. He squeezed back once. He'll be alright as long as there are no explosions today. The rest of the class coming through the door was a loud affair. Alaster noted any obvious quirks, then tried breaking down the rest of them. The one thing that throws him for a loop is a girl with blocky blood-red high tops and a red 5-pointed star, just like his own. He'd be able to know the basics of his classmates' quirks by the end of homeroom. Power Loader clapped his hands, drawing the attention of his rowdy classmates. Alright, all of you already have your schedules and know where you're going if you need to change classrooms at all. So let me get through roll call and then you can get started on any projects you have. Alaster knew better than to block out the roll call. He needed to be able to put names to quirks after all, and there was no way he was asking them. He doesn't trust any of them, but Mei and Kikuchi both know what it's like to have a weak quirk or none at all. As soon as Sensei had finished the roll call, Kikuchi had moved over to the desk in front of the pair. I like your shoes. I'm glad to see a fellow quirkless. Glad you like them. Same to you. Both of their voices were quiet, loud enough to carry between the 3 of them but no farther. Kikuchi glanced at Mei's 5-pointed blue star on the silver chain around her neck. Call me Mana, we're Reds after all. Alaster nodded. Alaster and Mei then. You want to hang out this weekend? Are you going to the funeral? Wouldn't miss it. He hated the funerals at first, he thought they were to mourn. But in reality, a quirkless funeral is one where you celebrated the life your comrade had, telling stories and getting to know them by visiting places they cherished. Most funerals took a few days. That was one of the few advantages of being quirkless. No one cared if you just fell off the face of the earth for a few days. The bell signaled the end of homeroom, and Alaster swung his bag over his shoulder and made his way to management and mathematics, which were taught by ectoplasm. Are you sure you should be here, kid? This is business course. A kid with black hair asked, getting too close for anyone's comfort. Sir Nunnos stood between the older student and Alaster, Velis curled tightly around her little fox's body, fur raised. Why can't he feel anything? Is he breathing? Did he do something wrong? He looks like a first year. This is a second-year course. Stop crowding the kid. You're gonna give him a panic attack, Kino. The sea of ghosts and limbs finally broke, and there stood ectoplasm. Sir Nunnos and Velis growled at the teacher, who took a step back when he noticed he was too close. Ectoplasm moved to take his coat off and Alastor flinched. He f'd up. Ectoplasm's going to yell at him because he can't hit him with so many witnesses. Hey Squirt. I'm going to wrap you up in my coat and bring you to Recovery Girl. All right. Don't touch, you can't touch me. I'm bad, can't be touched. You'll lose. Alastor tapered off near the end, making it too quiet for Ectoplasm to hear. Laying the coat over the kid's shoulder, Ectoplasm scooped up the kid and made a clone to watch the class. Don't think we aren't going to talk about this later. Ectoplasm spoke to the entire class on that threat. He swears these kids have no tact. The pair, really a quintet since there was now a sky blue-haired ghost following them along with the ever-present Velis and Sir Nunnos. It didn't take long for the group to get to Recovery Girl's office. Chio, I have a student here who was being harassed by my third and second-year business kids for being a first year in a traditionally second-year and above course. His name's Drogo Alastor. Pius. I have his older brother here due to Bakugu Katsuki taking it too far in the hero versus villains lesson All Might decided to give today. Isn't that meant to be later in the year, at least the quirk use portion? Yeah, it is. I already yelled at All Might for it. Aizawa added from where he was sitting near Drogo Kenji's bed. Ectoplasm chuckled as he placed down the younger of the two Drogos. I'm surprised you stuck around once Kenji got here, Shoyuta. Kid was badly injured due to a teacher's, if All Might can even be called that, negligence. Now, you said Alastor had a panic attack? Yeah, and he kept saying he couldn't be touched, that he was bad? He said I'd lose something, but I didn't hear the rest of it. Why are you talking about my brother? Kenji questioned as he pushed himself into a sitting position. Your brother had a panic attack when his classmates crowded him asking him why he was there. He mentioned that I couldn't touch him a few times? Kenji scoffed. AL's quirkless. There's the myth of if you touch a quirkless you'd lose your quirk or whatever. I was more scared of decaying the poor gremlin than losing my quirk when I touched him, so it never mattered to me. Plus, he's had some bad experiences with school in general. Kids barely spoken above a whisper all day. And according to May, he's been using Morse code to talk to her. I haven't seen him that deeply regressed since Dad got custody of him a couple of months ago. That poor kid's been through the ringer, Chio commented. Why is he going for a triple course, Drogo? Aizawa questioned, keeping his volume low. Wants a challenge. His old teachers lowered his grades, and before you ask, my dad's handling it. And to make it worse, the little sheet's been bored. How does that make it worse? Alastor learned 7 languages within a week because he had nothing better to do, which brought his language count to him being fluent in 20 languages. Oh, at least that explains why he's in a second and third year course. He has plans to finish the entire year by the end of the first semester. And to get into the hero course at the sports festival. That's more my fault given that I dared him, he couldn't do it, and this is the consequence of that. This kid's going to be the bane of the entire staff's existence. Aizawa groaned. I'm scared to ask what languages he knows now. Ectoplasm added. It should be on file. If I'm not mistaken, I'm not listing everything this kid speaks, because the number I gave you was the last time he ever updated me on what he knows. Knowing him, it's bigger now. Why hasn't the kid taken over the world yet? Aizawa asked. Kenji shrugged. Dad said he couldn't put any plans into motion until graduation. It's another reason he was to speedrun the coursework. He needed to put a cap on it or Al would have done it already, albeit slower than most would. Stop telling my plans to the staff, Ken. The language Alastor spoke was one none of the adults in the room knew. Sheet. I didn't know you were gonna respawn so soon, Al. Kenji replied in Greek. Alastor raised a brow. I'm going to kick your butt for telling them that. I'm still woozy from Recovery Girl, I can't help it. Okay, can you two speak in a language everyone in the room knows? Aizawa grumbled. Sorry, Sensei. Both brothers replied, glaring at each other. Alright, Kenji, you're good enough to go back to class. Alastor, Would you like to go back yourself? Recovery girl said, softly. I should be fine, miss, as long as I'm not crowded again. Wow, those business kids did a number on you, Squirt. Izuku looked out of the corner of his eye to see a lean, tall sky blue-haired teen in the uniform with blue eyes who was leaning on a quarterstaff. Hey, this whole being seemed things new for me. Name's Oboro. He's not surprised. But hey, at least Oboro looks like a person. He needed more ghosts to take looked like humans instead of Saw levels of body horror. It was lunch when Izuku finally got the chance to talk to the older boy. So, I'm guessing you died during your work studies, given that would be one of the few times you could. Oboro laughed. It reminded Izuku of birds soaring across the sky. Spot on, Squirt. So I take it you're not quirkless? Legally, yes, as I missed the late bloomer stage, but in practice nope. Huh, and that Kenji guy? My actual brother, Cloud Boy. Couldn't fake that without years of practice. So, you're a support, gen ed and business kid? Demon, talk about being a nerd. I can and will stop talking to you and ignore your entire existence. He hates what that nickname digs up. Boro put his hands up. Okay, won't call you a nerd then. Izuku ate his meal of miso soup and steak in peace. Tamura and Mei had decided to eat in the cafeteria and Izuku wanted as much peace as he could get, so eating on the roof would have to do. Why do we keep meeting on rooftops, kid? Why do you keep finding me on them, Boro snorted. Holy shit, Squirt. I haven't seen anyone talk back to Sho in a while. You've got some sass if you're brave enough to talk back to Sho, though. Kid, we need to talk about why you jumped off a roof right in front of me. We were done talking, so I went home. Simple as that. Aizawa sighed and pinched the bridge of his nose. A lot of the teachers seem to be doing that now. Problem child, you want to get into the hero course by winning the sports festival, right? Whatever training you and Kenji are doing now isn't going to cut it. You've gotten used to fighting each other. By that logic, I could help you. Alastair flinched at the moniker. He wasn't even Aizawa's student and the man had already labeled him as a problem child? That was never a good thing. Only if you help Ken. He's got plans to go underground, and you're the only underground teacher here. Alright, meet me in Gym Gamma at 2:30 sharp. If you're not there, the offer's gone. And with those words, Aizawa left the pair of living and dead in peace. Izuku waved Mei on. Go to the dorms, I'll be alright, Mei. His sister in all but blood gave him a tight hug. Alright, I had plans to work on Styx anyways. Styx was one of the babies they had made together. It was a challenge to cut it down to the size of a smartphone. It nearly took them a month because they didn't have the right parts. Alastair made his way inside to the commons rooms of the Class 1A dorms, spotting his brother grouped with a boy with a bird head and sentient quirk by the name of Dark Shadow. If the quiet scold was anything to go by. Kenji smiled at him and waved him over. Get over here, Al. I want to introduce you to some of my classmates. Izuku made his way around the boy he saw at the hospital, named Shoji Mizo if he remembers right. Keeping his gaze far from Bakugu, he knows that the teachers didn't look any deeper into his file. Why would they? Bakugu had the perfect quirks for heroics after all. I didn't know you had a brother, Drogo. A robotic-looking boy commented with an arm chop. Izuku knew who he was immediately due to the engines on his calves. Only one family had engine-based quirks. The Ida family made this Ida Tenya, the youngest son of the Ida family. Kenji rubbed the back of his neck. Yeah. Al doesn't like attention much. He's more of the type of guy who would kick your butt just by his smarts alone, right, Al? Tamura had a smirk on his face. He knew what he was doing. Alastair chuckled. Like I did when I placed first in all my exams? Wait, you're the student who's doing the triple course. I was wondering who decided to try it. And to hear you passed, well, that makes you a history. A tall, lightly tan girl with a black ponytail said, excited. Yeah, it's a pleasure to meet you, Drogo Alastair. Al stuck his hand out to the girl, who blushed. Oh, I'm Yayoro Momo, the president of Class 1A. Izuku checked his watch, noting the time. Yo, Kay, we gotta head out if we want to get to Gym Gamma by 2:30. Sheet. Tamura fell off his chair in the scramble to grab his bag. Why did you strike a deal with the demon known as my homeroom teacher? The younger of the two shrugged. You're the one who wants to go underground. And you want to get into the hero course at the sports festival. If anything, you're crazier than I am. Nope, May's first, then me, then you. Tamura sputtered and dragged Izuku by his collar out of the dorm. Not the point. Well, they seem energetic, Shoji said, breaking the quiet. I'm just surprised he was able to get Eraser-sensei to train them, Tokoyami added. Well, Drogo-kun did say his younger brother was trying to get in through the sports festival. Uraraka said, humming. Who gives a shit what some Gen Ed kid, or whatever he's doing cares? The Demon Extra probably doesn't have a good quirk anyways. Bakugu shouted. It's rude to comment on a fellow student without knowing them, Bakugu. Ida reprimanded. I recognize him a bit. The way he styles his hair and eyes remind me of a kid I saw go near my mom's room at the ICU. I never asked why he was there, just assumed he was visiting someone. I didn't know he had a brother, though, so maybe he was visiting him. Shoji spoke, his voice even. I wonder what his quirk is. I mean, he seems super smart if he's doing a triple course, so maybe an intelligence quirk. That seems like a good idea, Mina. Kaminari said, throwing an arm around his best friend. The pair of brothers got to Gym Gamma with 5 minutes to spare, both already dressed in loose enough clothes to train in. Good, you're early and already changed. Alright, what do you two know already? Aizawa commented, looking unimpressed with the pair. I'm good with speed, agility, and flexibility. I didn't focus much on strength given I have a more lean build. Kenji's the same way, just a bit more strength training so his kicks would be more powerful. Kicks? I thought you would rely heavily on your quirk, Drogo. Nah, Al yelled at me for that, said I needed more balance and some training quirkless so I didn't end up like most daylight heroes. You two aren't completely hopeless then. Alright, I want you two to rush me and I won't go easy on you. No quirks. Izuku scoffed. I'd yell at you if you did. I know my opponents at the sports festival won't. Aizawa tried to grab him with the capture scarf. Izuku sidestepped the oncoming garment. Because your opponents aren't going to tell you when they are about to attack. With that, the brothers rushed the pro hero. Tamura went left, starting with a leg sweep which was easily dodged. Izuku himself stepped right, then quickly pivoted to catch Eraser's fist, and judo flipping the older man. Tamura backed off slightly, just enough to give Izuku some space. Before Aizawa hit the ground, Alastair let go of a kick, slamming the teacher into the wall with a loud thud. Oboro was laughing his butt off watching this. He knew the kid must have been good to get on Shuta's radar, but demon. The squirt just wiped the floor with show. Holy sheets, Squirt. You'd be amazing with a quarterstaff. Or any weapon for that matter. Maybe a few throwing axes, since they don't require much muscle. Knives definitely. Snipe could probably hook you and Kenji up with guns. A ranged weapon is always a must for kids with close combat quirks, or in your case, none at all, Squirt. I could teach you how to hunt, Sapling. It could double as stealth training. Sunanos added, oh, I can teach you how to fight with fans. Or even make up for disguises. And sewing. Velis chimed in. I can cover parkour training, voiding, Munin added. You're passable now, but you could still grow. The Raven continued. Alastair nodded, he had his work cut out for him. Aizawa pushed himself off the ground. You two work well together, problem child. I'd imagine you also want to go underground at some point? Scaling down a flinch was hard at that moniker, but Izuku nodded. Yes, sir. If I win the sports festival, that is. Aizawa waved them off. Alright, go back to your dorms now. Ken tossed an arm over Izuku's shoulder. You want to hang around my dorm till curfew? The group chat I was manhandled into has been blowing up for the past hour. Alastair snorted. Yeah. Let me just text May so she doesn't tear apart the campus looking for me. He pulled out his phone and sent a quick text May's way, knowing it may take her a while to reply if she was deep into making a new baby. Tamura led him back to his dorm, and the pair was immediately crowded by most of his class. So why did Aizawa train you? The girl with the brown bob asked. Why are you doing a triple course? You've got to be super smart to do that, dude. A blonde with a black lightning bolt in his hair shouted in Alastair's face. Kenji whistled. All right, we'll answer your questions. Just back the F off. He shouted, quickly blocking his class from Izuku's view with his back. Cupping his younger brother's cheeks, he pressed their foreheads together. Hey, can you tell me 5 things you see? Why, the TV, the carpet, the sky, and Yayorozu. Okay, good. Now 4 things you can feel. Your hands, burning my clothes and blood. Okay, just 2 more, okay? You're doing amazing, little man. Now tell me 2 things you can taste. Blood, my soda from lunch. Tamura nods. All right, 1 thing you can hear, buddy? You and I hear ringing, like a phone. Tamura swings his bag off his shoulder and pulls out a medkit. Okay, give me your hands. Izuku holds his hands out flat. They're shaking worse than normal. He didn't even register the pain from his hands, something to tell Dad then. Kenji doesn't say a word as he disinfects his little brother's hands and wraps them. He holds out a water bottle. Go to the bathroom and wash your mouth out. It doors down on the left. Izuku nods mutely before making his way down the hall. Kenji turns on his classmates, the harshest glare he can manage. What the F dash dot? He's seething now. They couldn't just wait and ask one at a time, could they? Is Alastair going to be all right, Drogo-san? Jiro questions, an earjack rubbing against her neck. Kenji lets out a deep breath. I don't know. He was already having a bad day today. So just go easy on him and keep your voices lower than normal. And yes, that was aimed at you, Bakugo. Don't think I didn't hear the comment you made. We didn't mean to scare him, Kenji. Koji signs, a bluebird resting on his shoulder. Tamura gives the shy boy a small smile. I know you didn't, Koji. I just wasn't expecting you all to hound us right when we got back. Thought I was going to be able to get him to eat something first. Eat something? Did he not mention lunch? Yes. Kenji laughed. To him, nothing counts as lunch if he's busy with something. And by the looks of things he might have had just had a soda and onigiri today. Which is one of the better days, even if I hate to admit it. I had miso soup today too, Al admitted quietly, which meant most of the class but those with enhanced hearing, Jiro and Shoji, or those who were used to it, like Tamura, jumped. Kenji sighed. That's the best lunch you've had in the past 2 weeks, bub. Izuku stuck his tongue out and scrunched his nose in distaste. I'm not hungry most days, plus I'm busy working on babies with May, or hacking into Dad's company. You've been messing with Dad again? The last time he caught you, you got grounded for any nighttime wandering. Who said I was gonna get caught again? And who said he was the one who caught me instead of me being obvious? Tamura sighed, face-palming. I'm done with this conversation. You want to stick around for dinner or does your class prez got that covered? Izuku hummed, fingers flying across his phone's keyboard. Mayumi's got that covered, said Kin wanted to make spaghetti tonight. I need to handle dinner tomorrow. I suppose you're staying in the support dorms tonight? Yup, I've got plans to sleep in Gen Ed next week. May's coming with me. And with that, Izuku made his way back to the support dorms. He can move dorms? Yup, little man's got a room in support, Gen Ed, and business dorms. Moves around once or twice a month. Lets him get to know his classmates outside of classes. Oh, Kenji, what's your brother's quirk? Ashido asks, voice cheerful. Yeah man. He's got to have an intelligence FIC to be able to pull off a triple course load. Kaminari pushed. I will admit that it does spark my curiosity of what his quirk could be, Ida added. Yeah. I mean if he wants to transfer into the hero course, he's gotta have a cool quirk. Uraraka said. Sheet, how does Kenji explain this? It's none of their business sure, but if he doesn't tell them they'll keep pushing, and if he does he doesn't know how they'll react. Sheet. Why do you all care so much? A quirk's just a tool. Jiro said. Thank you for Jiro, she just saved his butt? What do you mean quirks are just tools? They've pushed science farther than most thought it would ever go. Ida argued. Yeah. Glass has got a point. Quirks aren't just tools ears. They're how we live now. They mean everything. Bakugo added, well more like screamed. I will admit quirks are nice. Yes, but they don't determine someone's worth, Tokoyami spoke, dark shadows curled around his shoulders. Yeah, people with weak quirks or none are still people. There's a nice quirkless girl in Gen Ed, and she gave me this 5-pointed blue star. Koji signed, the last part more focused on Kenji, as he also had a 5-pointed blue star on a necklace just like Koji and Mei did. Koji was too kind for this world. Tamura would raise hell if anyone hurt him. He was so glad Izuku wasn't here for this. He's already had a bad enough day, doesn't need to hear the hero hopefuls argue over quirks. Looking over to Jiro and Koji, he points down the hall to his dorm. Getting nods in return, the trio leaves their classmates to it. Tamura's room is simple in color, a light gray with a bed pushed into the far right wall. The main feature of his room though is the wall full of game consoles, the large flat-screen TV, and the triple monitors set up on his desk, along with 2 floor-to-ceiling bookshelves full of games. The room is also soundproof. Holy sheet. Think you got enough games, Drogo? What's with the soundproofing? Jiro snarked. Never enough, and Al ripped me a new one when he found out I had 2 classmates with heightened hearing. He and Mei, another support kid, screamed at me until I put up quirk-proof soundproofing. I tend to yell when I play games if I get said enough. So I know quirks are important to most people, but I thought Yurei would be different, Koji spoke, his voice quiet and soft. Jiro's eyes went wide. I thought you were mute Koda. But yeah, they're bad-mouthing a kid who we don't even know because you won't tell us his quirk. That's stupid, and they're all assholes. And no, I just don't like speaking much. Tamura sighed, texting Izuku quick to make sure he was okay with telling them what was on his file and if he got to the dorms all right. A knock at the door interrupted them. Jiro got up to answer, and on the other side were Shoji, Shinso, Kaminari, Tokoyami, and Kirishima. We don't agree with them, Shoji spoke for all of the guys present. Jiro looked over her shoulder at Kenji. Your room. Kenji looked up at them through his hair, which had fallen in front of them. Get in, shut the door and lock it. His voice was cold. What he was going to tell them put his brother's life in jeopardy. There was no way he was going to let someone overhear. Other than Nizu, because there wasn't much he could do against him without revealing his hand. Before I say another word, I want your views on quirkless people. The entire truth, you try and lie and I'll decay your buttes. Understood, Drogo-kun, I treat them like they are human beings, Tokoyami said, sitting cross-legged on the floor. Tamura was on his bed, Koji sitting below him on the floor, Jiro took his desk chair and the rest were strewn about on the floor. Say man. It's not manly to treat people like dirt just because they don't have a quirk. Kirishima spoke next. I know what it's like to feel worthless, due to shut-down mode of my quirk, Kaminari said, running a hand through his hair. My little brother was quirkless before he died in a car crash. So I know how they're treated, Shoji chimed in next. Fidgeting with a 5-pointed blue star. You already know mine and Koda's stance on this. They're people like us, Jiro said, kicking her feet up against one of the beanbags. I have a quirk most people consider villainous. I pretended to be quirkless at one school and it was so much worse. I know what it's like to be treated worse than the dirt under someone's shoes. Shinso said, his knuckles white as he gripped his pants. Mei and another girl with blonde hair and golden eyes tried to kick in the door but it was locked, so Dark Shadow unlocked it and in stumbled Mei, the blonde girl, and most importantly, Izuku, who looked like he just had a meltdown based on the mess that was his braids and the grip he had on both girls. Tamura scooped up his brother, tending to any immediate wounds he could see. Mei knew right away to start explaining. He overheard the conversation that your classmates had and started having a meltdown once we got to the dorms. He tried stabbing himself with a screwdriver. I and Mana had to pin him down. He wasn't speaking Japanese either. The only way I knew what he was saying is because he taught me English. He kept saying something about talking a swan dive, and then he started screaming and trying to tear his clothes off. That last bit might have something to do with Inko if I remember his sleep-deprived rambles right. Sheet. Call my dad and your parents. Turning to the rest of the room, he gestured towards the door with his head. I'll finish this another time, once I know my brother's all right. The group of 7 nodded and left the 4 in peace. I'm guessing you're in the same boat as Al, at least legally. Mana nods. Legally? Al was born with a quirk. Problem is, the double joint test got used instead of blood tests, so he was misdiagnosed and Dad didn't know that, plus he had left right before I turned 4 to get me out of the house due to Inko hating my quirk. And Inko smothered him then started abusing him, meaning she would never have brought him to get his quirk status changed. And since the cutoff for late bloomers is 10, a 14-year-old coming and saying he developed a quirk would have been laughed at, so that's everything pretty much. I knew I had it better than most having parents who gave a shit and treated me like a person but dimmin'. That's rough. No wonder that type of conversation would cause him to have a meltdown. Mana said, Uncle Sashi's been called along with Mom and Pops. Said we should make our way to Nizu's office and ask him to pull all our teachers in for a meeting. Kenji snorted. Let's hope Dad doesn't try and lawsuit these kids. He doesn't need the hassle. Picking up his brother who wrapped around him like a cola was easy. Mei opened the door for them and they were off. I tried stopping them, Drogo-kun, but Mei had bit me. Ida spoke with an arm chop, then showed off the bite mark Mei left, which was bandaged. Mei made him bleed good. You made him bleed, Mei. Good job, was all he said on the matter, causing the only decent people in the class to try and hide their laughs. He knew not to trust any of the teachers, he just made it seem like he did. It kept them from putting their noses into shit it didn't belong. The group got to Principal Nizu's office within 15 minutes or so, and by the looks of things, everyone else was already there. The only reason Kenji requested the teachers was that he preferred to them himself than have Nizu go behind his back. The stoat was alright so far, he didn't need to be added to the sheet list. Ken, give me Al, was the first thing Hisashi said, opening his arms to take his youngest. Tamura handed him over with little fuss. Shouldn't young Drogo be healed by Recovery Girl? He forgot all she taught here. I would like to heal him, Drogo-san. Recovery Girl added, her voice held pity and Tamura hated it. He doesn't have enough energy for that. Mei chimed in. Mana nodded. Yeah, he used it all up during the meltdown. The shorter blonde girl grabbed Mei's greased hand and squeezed. Nizu clapped his paws together. Now that everyone needed is here. I would like Hadasum and Kikuchi to explain what happened. Well, Al was going back from the Class 1A dorms and Ashido, Kaminari, Uraraka, and Ida were pressing him and Kenji to know what Al's quirk was. Al had a panic attack which Ken had to bring him down from, and he wasn't having a good day, to begin with, so that didn't help. Then Bakugu commented that he probably didn't have one after Al left. He was still close by to hear it, and that's what pushed him farther. The entire reason he kept it in for so long was that he didn't want to be a Deku in front of his peers. This was his fresh start, and he didn't want it ruined, so he held it back, and that made it worse. When he got back to the 1H dorms, he almost drove a screwdriver into his heart. I and Mana had to pin him down. He was repeating, take a swan dive off a roof, the entire time, but after we pinned him he started screaming and tried to tear his clothes off. That last bit must have been something his mother Inko had done to him before Uncle Sashi got him. The entire room was quiet. Present Mike looked ready to be sick while Power Loader was horrified. Aizawa was seething if his quirk being activated was anything to go by. Midnight seemed upset, she looked near tears. Hound Dog was growling, yet trying to keep it low. Nizu's fur was raised. Ectoplasm Looks said. He and Aizawa knew a small amount of what Izuku went through before Dad found him. Dad had gripped the chair's arm and had a few embers filter out of his mouth. Aunt Jin and Uncle Fudo looked ready to kill someone. They could, and no one would be wiser. Alright, Aizawa, I want you to teach a class about how the quirkless community are treated by society. I know it won't change much, especially for those steadfast in their beliefs, but putting the information out there is all we can do without having to deal with multiple lawsuits unprepared. Are you saying you won't go to court for my nephew? Uncle Fudo's voice was harsh. Nizu smiled at the handsome patriarch. Not at all, Fudo. I'm simply saying that I wish to be more prepared before having to go to court for one of my students. Planning for the future is good and all, but we can't get there if we don't start now. So what are you planning to do to help my son, Nizu? Dad's voice was cold, like when he was talking to his company's board when they were being idiots. Well, for one, I would like to take him on as a personal student. The coursework would be more streamlined. He'll still be doing a triple course but at his level instead of at his peers. I would also like to make a meeting with Hound Dog, our school's counselor mandatory. Only one. Drogo-kun can do the rest if he wishes. I don't want to push him into something which would make him uncomfortable. Thank you, Nizu. You are the first authority figure I've seen care for Alastair. Thank you to all of you for believing my son was more than his lack of quirk. And I would leave that decision up to Al once he wakes up. If you wouldn't mind giving me the name of your son's previous schools? My ex-wife had him go through the Aldra School District. Do with that information what you would like, Principal. Both men sported a similar grin. Oh God, it's going to get worse once Izuku joins. So much worse. Now, I think that was everything. If you'd like to take your children home for the rest of the week, you may. Kikuchi, would you like for me to call your parents so you may go home? Mana shook her head. No, thank you, sir. I would like to stay here and update my class on the current situation. All of us care deeply for Al. I'll also tell the Gen Ed kids. I know Arai-kun will worry if one of his classmates doesn't show up for the week. I need to talk with Goro about some gadgets I wanted him to test. With a quick bow, Mana left the room. Isashi stood, carrying Izuku in a bridal carry. Jin and Fudo followed suit, boxing in the white-haired man. Mei was the first out, then the adults and Izuku. Tamura turned to the principal. I'll know if you don't stick to your promise. Those are the good ones. Tamura handed Aizawa a slip of paper before leaving to catch up with his family. Aizawa sighed. That could have gone better. I already have plans for that lesson, Nizu. I'm guessing this paper Drogo gave me has the names of my students who treat the Quirkless like they should be. I'm not surprised about this, and I know the Drogo family isn't either. Aizawa stood and left the room, present Mike following close behind. Aizawa looked ready for a nap after all this. I can get Alastair in by Monday next week, Nizu. That was all Hound Dog said before leaving himself. I'm going to make sure I don't have any issues with my class. Midnight was still trying to hold back tears as she left. Ectoplasm, you said that the business students had pushed Alastair into a panic attack today, yes? Yeah, Arakino and Uyeda Kyeko had crowded the little guy and kept asking why he was there without letting him get a word in. You already know what happened after. Ichim, I suppose you already scolded them, yes? Ectoplasm nodded. Yeah, all of them had to write up a report on panic attacks and what could cause them. Izuku woke up on the couch back at home, which was odd. He should be back in the dorms. Hey, little man. How are you feeling? Tamura was sitting on the couch with Izuku's legs over his lap. He had paused Animal Crossing. Alright, I think. Why are my arms covered in bandages? You tried to stab yourself with a screwdriver. Mei and Mana had to pin you down. Izuku stared at his bandaged hands. Oh, he was back in the Inko mindset, as Mei had coined it. He thought he was getting better. Wasn't he? He flinched when a pair of arms wrapped around him. Oh, that was Toma hugging him. Was he crying? Booba, healing isn't linear. Trust me, I wish it was. You'll have your ups and downs, good days and bad. Getting better takes time, and yet it's because one day you can be feeling great, and then next to you curled up in bed with no energy. Healing is, but it's worth it. Inko coddled me after you and Dad left. More once I was misdiagnosed. Through that PRD she tried killing me 5 times. Twice through poison, another through trying to rip my heart out while I slept. She almost got me there. Then one was when she slammed me too hard into the wall, another was when she tried killing me with too much sodium intake, and the final one was cracking my skull. Mind you, she brought me to the hospital after all these and not one of the doctors thought it was abuse cause I was quirkless. Those were over 2 years, by the way. Thought that was important to mention. I'm guessing it got worse over the years. Tamura asked, grateful he got out when he did. Yup, she tried starving me until I was 6 or so. She saw I was catching on so she stopped. Once the same year she almost killed me through insulin, which dropped my sugar levels too low. She started to perfect her methods over the years. It helped that she was a nurse. Izuku started, taking a breath. This was the easier stuff to talk about, wasn't that funny? Her methods evolved pretty quick. She started trying to strangle me when I was 7, then by the time I was going on 8 she tried to suffocate me. Those 2 are why I have the neck scars, plus Bakugo burning anything he could touch. When I was right, she deemed me old enough to start using her quirk. She'd used it in small ways before, but that's when she would pin me to the wall with knives and then drive anything sharp enough into me. And to make it worse, she said she loved me while doing it. She had been emotionally manipulating me since you and Dad left, saying that I had no brother, no dad. It was just me and her, and she would protect me from my quirked peers as I wasn't strong enough to play with them, even though it was fine before I was misdiagnosed. We need to get you checked out by Dr. Kano Miki. She's the doctor Dad's been taking me to. Her wife, Dr. Kano SE, is a quirk specialist. Plus you should have a meeting with Hound Dog once you get back. Alright, but she tried to drown me when I was 9 once. She also broke my fingers and hands a lot. It's why they're all bent weird and I have issues with grip and using them. So that's why Mei puts grips on everything. It might help to wear padded fingerless gloves. Tamura explained, cupping Izuku's hand. Yeah, she noticed when we first met, then gave me my first knife with a grip. She didn't even bring it up, just made accommodations. And the teachers back at Aldro would muzzle me if I mumbled too much, so pretty much any time I opened my mouth. And then if I still wasn't too loud, the teacher allowed Bakugu and his lackeys to shove me into the closet in the back of the room. I wouldn't be let out until a janitor who was quirkless, let me out. But one of Bakugu's lackeys had a lightning quirk. Not as strong as Kaminari from what you told me, but she would use it on me 'cause no one cared, and I think she fried some of my nerves. I can't feel things some days. Plus I now have Lichtenberg scars which are pretty. But that's everything. Izuku added once he paused to give Tomu some time to think things over. Okay buddy, come on, we're gonna play Animal Crossing until Monday. And we're feasting on Indian food and ice cream. I don't give a shit what Dad says. The week Izuku spent home was one of the best weeks he ever had. He and Tamura pigged out on a feast of takeout and home-cooked food Dad made when he got home from work. The pair played video games most of the time, trying to be 100% them or just goofing off. The time they weren't playing video games was spent hanging out around the small group Tamura craved for himself, consisting of Jiro, Koda, Shoji, Tokoyami, and Dark Shadow, along with Kaminari and Kirishima. Izuku brought along Mei and Mana whenever they went out somewhere. Dad, Tamura, Mei went along with Izuku and Mana to the funeral of a young boy named Seonjin, who had been beaten by a group of people who used the Quirkless forums against its user to either convince themselves to commit, or if that didn't work they would kill them themselves. Jian was one of the unlucky few, although everyone who crossed paths with this group was unlucky, to be murdered by being shoved onto the train tracks. The weekend was spent telling stories and accomplishments of the deceased. It was also spent moving throughout the city to any hotspots or other funerals anyone caught wind of. Al, how many times have you done this before? Tamura asked. Ever since I was able. No one cares if a quirkless goes missing for a few days. He fidgeted with his red star. He felt like an outlier, but knew in his heart he would still be accepted, misdiagnosed or not. You can change being labeled quirkless, no matter how hard you try. The weekend trip opened his family's eyes. He had brought Mei on a few before. She knew what these were like. Yes, they mourned, but they did that by celebrating the person the deceased was, not by focusing on their death. When he got back to you, the first thing Alastair did was check in with his dorm mates, even the business kids, who apologized profusely. It would take longer for Izuku to try and build a relationship farther than Peeps with any of them. As Tomu said, healing took time. He spent most of that first day before his appointment with Hound Dog chilling out in a puppy pile with Mei and Mana in his room, just enjoying their company. Izuku wasn't nervous about his meeting. The entire reason he told Tamura first was so this meeting would be easier. Entering the office felt odd. He was expecting a sterile white office, but what he got was an office painted in lilac with bean bags and a couch, along with plushies strewn about. Izuku even saw a few bins full of fidget toys and a mini fridge. Hello, Drogo-kun. How are you today? Hound Dog was dressed in a simple pair of jeans and a graphic t-shirt with a dog pun on it, something Izuku himself probably would wear when he would lounge around the dorms. Taking a seat in a deep green bean bag, Alastair picked up a tiger plushie from the floor. I'm good, Hound Dog. What would you like to talk about today? The counselor shook his head. It isn't about what I would like to talk about, pup. You start this conversation, And anything you tell me to bar you want to harm yourself or others will stay between us under doctor-patient confidentiality. Izuku was taken aback. This was new. He never started the conversation between himself and a person in power. No, he listened, never speaking a word unless required. I'm doing good. I didn't like last Monday much. It's not how I would have wanted to start my week at UA. I wish the business kids didn't crowd me. I was in the right spot. My schedule says so. You can check my file if you want. I passed the business exam. I passed all my exams. I'm supposed to be here. Hound Dog raised his hands in a calming gesture. I know you're meant to be here, pup. No one thought you cheated, not me, not Nizu. If I had to pick anyone out of the student body who deserved to be here the most, it'd be you, Alaster. You earned your spot at UA in all the courses you tried for. Okay, I'm sorry for yelling. Hound Dog smiled gently, or well as gently as a man with a dog's head could. It's all right. This is a safe space for you to vent your emotions. What else is there to talk about? I and Kenji are 100% uncharted for this weekend. It was fun. I also hung out with Mei and Mana. Sounds like you had a fun time off. Now I heard from a friend of mine that you went to a funeral this weekend. Hound Dog said, carefully, his voice quiet as he pulled out a blue star. Hound Dog was a blue. You're a blue? I mean, it makes sense given your profession, but who gave you your star? He had gotten too comfortable, aboard. His panic must have shown, for Hound Dog smiled again. Why does he keep doing that? Izuku's no reason to smile. My sister was a red. She took me with her to our first outing. An older gentleman gave me my star. He's passed on now, but it's something I will always cherish. He opened my eyes to the struggles my sister and her community, her second family, had to go through daily without fail. It's why I became a counselor, to try and help those no one else would. I'm a pro-hero second, never first. Oh, thank you for having me, Hound Dog. Izuku stood and placed the plushie back onto the bean bag, gave a quick bow, and left. He needed Toma right now, and some Mei cuddles. Meeting up with Mei outside of his brother's room was easy. Ida hadn't bothered them since Mei bit him last week. And none of the others were bold enough. Hey, you two, where's Mana? She's hanging out with Kin. They're gonna pick us up for lunch. Kin's got a new recipe he wants to show off. Hey, how are you doing, man? Kaminari was cheerful, but Izuku was wary of the other teen. He had a similar quirk to one of Bakuga's lackeys. He can still feel the frying of his skin and nerves. Good. His response was clipped, something both Mei and Tamura picked up on. The pair of support students sat on Tamura's bed, Izuku's legs over his brother's shoulders. Mei was leaning against the wall Tamura set his bed against. Koda was sitting on the windowsill, Jiro at Kenji's desk, and Shoji, Tokoyami, Kaminari, and Kirishima took up any floor space left. Dark Shadow was quick to brush up against Izuku's cheek. Hello. You're the fledgling Tamura's been talking about. She seemed happy to meet him, so Izuku scratched underneath her chin like he would a cat and got a purr from the sentient quirk. I'm sorry for Dark Shadow's forwardness, Drogo-kun. Izuku giggled, a sound similar to bells chiming. It's all right. Do you mind if I write stuff about her down? Or all your quirks in general? The last question was from the others in the room. Hell yeah. From was Kenbro has been saying, you're good with analysis, right? Yeah. It's more of a hobby. Mei shoved his shoulder, causing him to fall into Kenji's lap. Stop selling yourself short, though. You're a mastermind at analysis. I mean, you broke down my entire family's quirks within 30 minutes of meeting them. Let alone what I've seen you do with less information. I wouldn't mind you doing me, Drogo-kun. It'd be useful information to know. Shoji added, speaking out of a mouth he created on his hand. I would like mine done too. Anything to make me a better hero. Koda was quick to sign his agreement. I and Denki are in men. If Kenji says you're good, you gotta be. Kirishima said, slinging a shoulder of Kaminari's shoulder. Jiro shrugged. Seems cool. Can't hurt, right? Okay. Thank you for allowing me to do this. I'll have to observe you using your quirks in a more combat-type setting, but we should be able to do that after school tomorrow in Gym Gamma. Speaking of Gym Gamma, why'd you two go there? And why was Aizawa-sensei there? We're training under him. Me because I want to go underground and Al over here cause he wants to kick your butts in the sports festival to get that open seat in the class we have. Little man's going for all for courses by the halfway point in the year. Kenji ruffled Izuku's dyed braids and the undercut he had with them. Alastor smacked his brother's hand away. Stop messing with my braids. I'll tell Auntie Jin. Kenji put his hands up quick. Alright. Please don't tell Auntie Jin. I don't need my butt kicked by an angry mama bear today. Auntie Jin? Jiro asked with a smirk. My mom, we've been hanging around since middle school, Mei said, tackling Izuku in a bear hug. So how'd you two meet? Kaminari asked with a grin. I was getting my butt kicked and she tossed them. Izuku spoke with the most deadpan face he could muster. I thought Dad got rid of that demon thing, Kenji said, looking at the chaos gremlins with a brow raised. He did. He just didn't get the blueprints. I'm not touching that, nope. I need my sanity. So, what were you gonna tell us last week, Kenji? Alastor stiffened. Kenji tapped his thigh twice, then 3 times. He had this covered. He had to. Tamura wouldn't just drop that bomb on them without knowing first. So, you all know how I asked your views on quirkless people? That's because AL's quirkless. Oh shit. Now it makes sense why the conversation most of the class was having sent you spiraling. Sheet man, I'm sorry that most of my classmates are assholes. I know how it feels to be useless due to shutdown mode. Kaminari spoke clearly. What shocked Izuku most is that there was no pity in any of Kenji's classmates' eyes. Holy motherfucking shit. He had people, who were quirked no less, who weren't family, that didn't see him as less than dirt. I understand your pain, Drogo-kun. You have a strong will to burden that unnecessary weight. Tokoyami spoke second, voice filled with emotions Izuku didn't want to pick apart right away. Yeah man. You're a person no matter your quirk status. I would find it hypocritical if I was quirkist. Shoji added. Yeah. You're a great guy, Drogo-kun. Why should it matter that you have no quirk? Koda smiled at him, and gods it felt amazing seeing someone smile at him with no hidden malice. I'm in the same boat as Shoji. My family is mostly mutant quirks, so it'd be shitty of me to be based on quirk status, Jiro said with a shrug. You're super manly from what Kenji's told us so far, dude. Quirkless or not, you could probably wipe the floor with most of us, even when we used our quirks. Kirishima added. See, call me Alastor. You guys are amazing, thank you. Izuku hated how his voice broke. Is this what his relationship with Bakugo was supposed to be like? Denki, man. Denki's fingers had small sparks coming off them. That couldn't be good for the blonde. Tamura shoved one of Izuku's multiple-word vomit notebooks as his brother took to calling them into his hands, and Izuku immediately had nearly 2 pages alone on how Denki could work on his quirk. Jiro, it's only fair, Al. Kyoka, what music do you like? Anything. Depends on the mood I'm in. Call me Mizo if we're friends. Mizo's voice was calm, but his eyes seemed to light up with happiness. He was in the same boat as Izuku, wasn't he? Koji, you could help all of us with our quirks, right? I just need to see them in action and stuff. It's not creepy, right? Fumikage, it's only proper if we're to be companions. And no, it is a great skill to have. Fumikage was the last of the group to speak. Dark shadow curled around Izuku and Mei like a soft blanket. Tamura clapped his hand lightly. Get your butts on the bed. We're watching a movie, enough feels tonight, folks. The group of newly befriended teens climbed onto Tamura's bed, arranging themselves in a tangle of limbs and blankets. Tamura popped in a pre-quirk movie called The Avengers. Mei had run to get snacks. Why something pre-quirk? Jiro asked, catching the bag of chips Mei threw at him. They're better than current stuff. Plus, it's nice to see some stuff from before our entire society shifted gears. We used to have a space program, but it was dropped once quirks came around. Izuku explained, still writing anything he could think of. I should have waited before handing you that Dimon notebook. Izuku knew Tamura was joking. His brother knew to not cross the lines Izuku drew in the sand. Denki and surprisingly Mizo passed out halfway through the movie. Mei went next, which surprised neither brother. Both she and Izuku ran on mostly energy drinks and spite. Ijiro went next, then Kyoka. Fumikage left around 9 o'clock or so and said they wanted to have some alone time before slipping into Hypnos' grasp. I'm surprised you're still up, Koji. Thought you would have been asleep by now. No. I have trouble sleeping some nights. The mute boy's voice was soft and reminded Izuku of freshly fallen snow. Alright, Ima, try and move these guys back to their dorms. I'll just crash here tonight. Ken, mind lifting Mizo? Tommy Mizo up with a grunt. Izuku swears his brother is a dumbass some days. Yeah, the kid with 6 arms is gonna be heavy. It's why Izuku didn't do it himself. Picking up Denki was easy, the blonde was light as sheet. Even enough for Alastair to grab Kyoka, slinging Denki over his shoulder like a sack of flour. What the hell are you two doing, problem children? Sheet. Aizawa spot them. Izuku doesn't think about having to hold back a flinch, or dropping into a fighting stance and dropping his friends. We watched a movie in Ken's room. Most of them fell asleep, didn't want to wake them, so here we are. Aizawa sighed. Please tell me Power Loader knows you spending the night? Yup, texted Mana. I'm good till morning. Alright, I don't care what you do as long as you don't die. Well, that's hard to do when you can't stay dead for more than a couple of minutes. He'd known since he tried, but oh well. Denki's room was the closest, 2 doors down from Tamura's and 3 from Mizo's. Koji had already gone to his room, which was right next to Kenji's. Luckily the doors were unlocked. Denki's room had light-up plastic stars on the ceiling along with science books lining his bookshelves, most on electricity and how it worked with other components and what you could do with it. A few posters of hawks were near his desk area, which was a right mess. The walls were painted a soft buttery yellow, and his bedsheets were a light gray. Altogether the room was very nice. Izuku tucked the blonde in, shifting Kyoka to a bridal carry. Mizo's room was painted blue and his bed was on the left side of the room, pushed against a wall under a window. There was a rock-climbing wall on the right side, with weights and a pull-up bar. His desk was neatly organized and bookshelves were small but filled with photos, knickknacks, and surprisingly romance novels. Not something he expected, but if he liked them, who was Izuku to judge? Tamura placed the 6-armed boy onto his bed, pulling the covers over him, and with a quick brush of Mizo's hair, the pair were making their last stop of the night. On the 3rd floor, where Kyoka's room was. It was painted purple, with band posters covering most walls, some even pre-quirk. The room was soundproofed much like Tamura's and Alastair's own. She had an electric guitar and a record player, and her bed were in the center of the room. A desk was pushed on the south wall, a dresser making it into a right angle. The purple-haired girl had a pansexual flag hanging on her ceiling. Izuku knew better than to bring that up until his friend was ready. Placing the girl into her bed the same way he did for Ijiro and Denki, the brothers left quickly. They didn't need the other girls thinking they were perverts. Making their way downstairs and back into Kenji's room was easy. The pair had changed into sleep clothes, a large old shirt for Izuku and just his boxers. Tamura wore an old pair of basketball shorts with a wife beater. The 2 brothers curled around each other much like they would do when one had a nightmare or just wanted some cuddles, and slept. Izuku still woke up at 2 a.m., even without Haruto's screams. He woke up like clockwork. Cernunos and Munnin were relaxing in the corner, Velis and Hina nowhere to be seen. Giving a quick wave to the pair, Izuku rolled out of bed. Might as well do something. He had to deal with the business kids again today, so at least 2 pots of coffee were required for that. Plus, Power Loader requested he work on support gear and costumes of the big 3, whoever they were, probably hero students and powerful ones at that. Well, might as well figure out costumes and start his day early. He got enough sleep. Grabbing his bag before moving into the kitchen, Izuku starts up the coffee pot and places his bag on the kitchen table. Papers and books get strewn about. Izuku noticed the shift in the floorboards. Whoever was up was trying to be quiet. And they were good at it, but Izuku's used to never being alone. Nothing can get the jump on him anymore. Oh, I didn't realize someone else was up. Yeah, most people have decent sleep schedules. You're Shinso Hitoshi, right? The kid with the cool brainwashing quirk. Needs a better name. You're a hero in training, not a villain. Izuku swears he could feel Shinso's worldview just shatter. He broke another kid. Dad's gonna be said he needs to pay for someone else's therapy again. What? Izuku turned around and was met with gravity-defying purple hair, a possible mutation, or an evolved telekinesis quirk. He'll figure it out later, with eye bags that could rival his own. Shinso's taller than him by a couple of inches. He needs that growth spurt soon, damn it. And just staring. You're a hero in training. Only bigoted fools would call your quirk villainous because it's mental. Hagicure's quirk is currently only good for spy work, yet you don't hear anyone badmouthing her quirk. Focus on your end goal. Shinso's not the mindless chatter of those around you. You want to be a hero, so be one. I'm going to go back to bed. It's too early for this. Izuku disregarded the boy whose worldview he just broke and went to grab a mug and fill it with coffee and bring the pot with him. It'll take too much time to move to refill it every time. When Tamura walked into the kitchen at 5:30, Izuku had finished reworking the Big Three's entire costumes. Why the hell did Togata not have a costume made out of his DNA? Matter of fact, why didn't Hakigure? Plus, Amajiki would need some support gear for his quirk given that it was based entirely on what the teen ate. So Izuku created containers, basically military-grade bento boxes, but the food was in tablet form, along with a dispenser that would connect to a mouthpiece so Amajiki didn't have to waste precious time grabbing and eating a tablet. How long have you been up and how many pots of coffee? 3 hours, 30 minutes, and 45 seconds along with 3 weight make that 4 pots of coffee. What class is today, little man? Homeroom with midnight, then half the day with power loader, then the other with ectoplasm. They want me to go over the Big Three. I already got support gear and costumes fixed, then they also need help planning out how to get an agency off the ground right out of high school. I also need to hand in a packet of German homework to present Mike. Since I'm already fluent in English, he wants to test other languages. God. You better eat something today and take a nap once you get back to the Gen Ed dorms. I texted Gene, who knows. To do anything in his power, including using his quirk to get me to nap for a couple of hours. Kenji shrugged. Best you can do. You want fried rice for breakfast. Emchim. Why are you still here, Drogo-kun? Ida was so loud. As everyone in his family like that? Or was he the only one with a stick so far up his but it touched his brain? I spent the night in Kenji's room? It was too late for me to make my way across campus. Ida chopped an arm down and almost split Izuku's coffee over his notes. Okay, that's it. This motherfucker just moved to the top 20 on his sheet list. Please move your arms away from my coffee. I spent the past 3 hours writing those notes, and if you stain them, I give you shitty support gear. That is unheroic. You cannot give a hero faulty support gear. Izuku scoffed, collecting his things. Good thing you ain't a hero, Ida. You'd be a sheet one anyways. Welp, time to go before he kills Ida. Tamura ruffles his unbraided hair, made as it most mornings if Tomu or Dad can't, trying to hold back laughter, as are the rest of Izuku's friends, and isn't that weird? The Quirkless has friends. Making his way across campus to the support labs is easy due to the skateboard he and Mei made last year. Grabbing the board with a kick, Izuku makes his way into the support labs. Mei's not there, so she must have been dragged out by Mana at some point. Hello, Drogo. You're early today. Yeah, I wanted to work on Amajiki's support gear. The pro hero was surprised. You already have the blueprints made up? Yeah, for all 3 of them along with costumes. I want to redo Mirio's entire costumes, along with Hakigure's in Class 1A, as both should have costumes made up from their DNA. Not whatever they currently have. Well, Hakigure just has gloves and boots right now. Izuku dropped the blueprints he was holding with a loud thud. Turning sharply to his sensei and giving the best glare he could, Izuku stared into the man's soul. I'm sorry, did you just say she had gloves and boots? I understand she's invisible, but that doesn't mean unbreakable. You should know this. You run the support course, yet you let this pass? You know what, give me all of Class 1 as costumes and any support gear they might have. I might not like most of them, but that doesn't mean they don't get a fighting chance. Oh. What ya doing? There's Mei. Redesigning costumes of our year mates and some third years, as they had shitty FING costumes that were all flair and no practicality. Plus Bakugo has support items he shouldn't have until he's gone through therapy and anger management, along with restraint training. He almost killed Kenji the first time he used them. Who the hell made functional grenades for a first year? I thought Go made them for aesthetics. But to make them functional? Was he trying to kill someone? May was said, which was fair. Don't know, but I'm gonna find out today. Alright, what do you want me to work on? May asked as she fished out 2 monsters from her bag. Izuku pushed Hato Nijire's blueprints towards May. Her suit should be less skin-tight. She needs recovery girl-like gummies for her quirk. Even with her improved stamina, you can never be too careful. She also needs to cut her FING hair. It's a hazard that'll get her killed. She's a hero student, a 3rd year at that. If one of her teachers hadn't brought it up, why would she listen to 2 first years? Because if she doesn't, I'll shave her FNG head, that's why. May laughed. Passive-aggressive much, Al? Alastor shoved the girl with his shoulder. Says the girl who made a flamethrower because Uncle Fudo said no. That was different and you know it. Izuku checked the time, noting he should get going soon. Thumbs up. Thumbs down. Instead of saying, good luck, as with Izuku that never ended well, the family said thumbs up then thumbs down, as a way of conveying it without jinxing it. Collecting all his papers and prototypes of Amajiki's gear, Izuku was off to the Gen Ed building for homeroom. Hey, Midnight Sensei. Hello, Drogo. I see you spent some time in the labs this morning. She had a smirk on her face, noting the heavily stained overalls. Yeah, I'm sorry I lost track of time. Undoing the zipper for the top, Alastor tied the arms around his waist, showing off his uniform shirt underneath. Moving to his seat next to Cho, he smiled at them. How are you doing today, Cho? Beat June at poker yet? Nope, still losing. Izuku grimaced. Ouch, what dare? Need to chug a bottle of Gatorade mixed with peaches. Oh shit. Good luck with that. Cho hummed, slumping in their chair. You'll be fine, Cho. It's better than Quinn having to prank the 2nd years. Alright, let's get roll call done then you can hang out. I forgot we have to do a history assignment today. Kira groaned. You'll be fine, you can choose an easy topic. Izuku replies. Says the guy who wrote a 10-page essay on World War II for the first history assignment. Quinn commented, she was wearing a pink bracelet today, so it was a femme day. It's not my fault Cementos didn't restrict us. Still, L, that was overkill, and you know it, oh added, Ami, humming in response. Who got 100 on their paper and who got a 75? Not the point. I'm utter shit at history. Argued Beck. Girls, you're both pretty now cutting out. I'm trying to sleep. Chesa cut in. The other 2 of the Kato triplets bickered like an old married couple. Chesa had to cut in before punches were thrown. Sorry, Chi, the other 2 replied, sticking their tongues out at each other. Getting a text from May was odd. Seems like the big 3 got there early. Grabbing everything and tucking his skateboard, aptly named Sharon, under his arm, Izuku made his way to the front of the class. You can head out, Drogo. Power Loader already informed me about it. Getting the go-ahead, Izuku jogged out of the room, taking a sharp left and out a side door, throwing down Sharon and booking it to the support labs. Why are you 3 early? You're not supposed to be here for another hour. Damn it, Izuku hated schedule changes. Did they feel entitled due to being 3rd years? All Might said we could go ahead. Who the hell are you? The blonde, Mirio Togata, Izuku notes. Of FE course all F was involved, and he chose an entitled prick to be his successor. The girl had malice in her eyes. They knew he was quirkless then, probably thought he was bitter and jealous enough to give them shitty gear. The only one who looked halfway decent was Amajiki. Tamaki, his quirk relied on food like momos, kins, and his father fat gum. Yet instead of energy stockpiling, it was offensive at first look anyways. It could be a wild card, both in quirk and style. The guy who's doing your gear and getting your agency off the FING ground, so start treating me like a FNG person. Alright, let's all calm down, Kat. Alastor, respect is a 2-way street, Power Loader cut in. Sure, when you have a quirk. Wait, wasn't that woman with All Might before? So why was she following around Mirio? Wait, All Might was quirkless, then showed up with a strength quirk out of high school. The cutoff for late bloomers was 11, so there's no way. Plus, Izuku tracked that back as far as he could, and every other person who had a strength quirk labeled it as their quirks evolving, which was possible. He was proof, but he had AFO to kick it off. So then how did their quirks get the jumpstart? Holy motherfucking sheet, All Might's quirk was transferable. Oh, if dash, that's bad. But the more concerning thing, how could something be worse than the truth of All Might's quirk? For words, the white-haired man. But it wasn't him. He looked too much like Dad. The WHM had no face and was a boogeyman, not a smaller version of Dad. Plus there were 6 others. A tall, bald guy, with golden eyes who looks like he could fold Izuku like a deck of cards. He was wearing a biker jacket, blue jeans, and combat boots. His ears were covered in piercings, and from what he could see his arms were covered in tattoos. The guy next to him was a short guy with spiky black hair and gauntlets on his arms. Like Bakuga's, he was wearing an overcoat with a navy blue shirt underneath and black cargo pants with combat boots. His eyes were a striking blue. The third spirit was another man with his hair pulled into a high ponytail. His eyes were a storm gray color. He was wearing an old duster coat with a black shirt underneath. He was also wearing combat boots. Izuku can respect combat boots, but gods, so many pairs. The fourth was another male with a scar running down the left side of his face. His hair was a deep navy blue, possible ancestor to the Ida family. His eyes were light green, and he was dressed in casual clothing consisting of a jacket and jeans. The fifth was the woman. She hadn't changed from the last time she saw her. She was wearing a purple jumpsuit, hero costume. Her eyes reminded Izuku of Inko. The last was blonde man wearing a high-collar jacket that covered the bottom half of his face. His eyes were brown, and he seemed to hold unknown knowledge, something Izuku craved with his entire being, something he doesn't knows. Hello again. I'm sorry for scaring you when you were younger, Izuku. I never meant to. The WHM's voice was soft. Why? He was meant to terrify them, so why was he being soft? Why did he look like Dad? He had so many questions and no answers that it felt like he was drowning. Ah shit, I think the little guy needs a break, Yoichi. The blad guy piped up. It didn't matter right now. Focus on the support gear, and the prick who needs it. Okay, so first thing. Mirio, your costumes need to be made of your DNA. Power loader, there seems to be something off in Mirio's file. Can you explain what that is? That's classified information, kid. You don't need to know that. Izuku glared at the third year. If you want good support gear and costume, then I need to know everything that is on your file. He's right, Tagata. He should know if he's supplying you with gear. My quirk changed somehow. There's a strength buff now. So you need bracers, and it needs to be reinforced. Possibly heavier boots if you plan on using kicks, along with brass knuckles. Vibranium, but it needs to be mixed with his DNA, or the entire costume falls apart. Also needs to call for Yaoyoro's Momo. She had a creation-based quirk. She just needs the chemical makeup and we're good to go. Sorry, didn't mean to mumble. So, you'll be wearing fingerless gloves to grip things better, plus we can slip the knuckles between your hand and the fabric. For the strength part of your quirk, you can't have any loose fabric or skin tight either that would constrict your movements, so a compressive tank top would work well. That same goes for permeation. I also need hair or blood, whichever you can give a fuckton of. Izuku explained. Hopefully he was half understood. Okay, Amajiki. Your costumes weigh too much free-flowing fabric. I would make a bodysuit, then give you an overcoat with a fuckton of pockets, possibly made out of vibranium and Kevlar mix. I made you a prototype mask. It has a mouthpiece so you can eat whatever food you need without wasting time. And speaking of food, I made tablets. They're all color-coded. Red is your offensive, blue defensive, green is meant to buff, purple is mid-range, and yellow is in long range while white is close range. Don't worry, this'll be drilled into your head, along with you needing training of being unable to choose what you eat. You can only choose what color it correlates to. Each tablet has a color tag box, which will show up on your HUD and not on the boxes themselves, as villains can pick up on the pattern if the fight goes on for too long. But, depending on what code word you say, which the villains won't be able to hear, made sure of that, will determine what pill you get. Each code word is based on the corresponding color. Don't worry about forgetting anything. I wasn't joking about it being drilled into your head. Hato, first things first. Cut your iffy hair before it kills you. Excuse me? You heard me. What happened when it gets caught, or worse, a villain grabs it? Simple, your hero career ends due to you wanting to look pretty. You cut it, or IFING buzz it. Aile's not lying. He buzzed one of my parents' clients' hair and it saved her life. May chimed in. He swears his sister was a lifesaver some days, mostly when dealing with fools. Okay, your suit itself is good due to you being aerial in most fights. But you need other ways to keep your stamina up, so I present gauntlets that store your energy along with a version of Recovery Girls gummies, and the only thing I'd add to your suit is a cooling system so you're not wasting energy by sweating. Okay, these should be done by next week at the maximum. Togata, my boy, it's time for training. He's taking that break early. He walks out, slamming the door behind him. He needs Jean to use his quirk on him right now. He can't deal with this. It was supposed to be a good day. Tamura knows it's a bad day when Izuku's curled up around Dark Shadow on the common room floor of the 1A dorms. He's not dealing with that now though. He's going to cuddle his brother and binge pre-quirk pop culture. He's going to decay whoever ruined Izuku's good day. It was the first. Yes, there'll be more, but you can never get the first back. Why must everything Izuku enjoys be ruined? Tamura said he would have a good day. So why have none come? It's just been a bad day after a bad day with barely any breathing room. Ida yelled at him when he entered the dorm. He wanted to cuddle with Fumi. He and Dark Shadow gave some of the best cuddles after Mizo. Why does the fates him? He wasn't a hero or demigod. He was simply an undying boy. Hey, you alright, Al? Mizo asked, resting his head on Alastair's shoulder. No, I was helping the third years with their costumes. But All Might showed up and I left. One of them is training under him, right? And from what I've seen, All Might's a sheet teacher. They're not gonna get far. Izuku giggled, gently shoving the gentle giant. I'm rubbing off on you. Can't be a hero now according to Ida. Ida's a jerky to you, man. Denki yelled as he barged in. Izuku flinched. Both of his friends caught it. So, what's the plan for today? I need help with some English, Al? Alastair rolled out of Mizo's bed, humming. Gimme, Denver. Denki passes the packet over. The other boys leaning in, their packets in hand. Let's start simple. How would you phrase, Mary should have ducked, with conjunctions? Mary should have ducked? Denki was unsure. That was clear as day. Yeah. Wanna try the next one? Izuku placed the packet between them, pointing out errors Denki had without solving them for him. How are you so good at this, Star? Fumikage asked, tilting his head. My dad came from America. I and Kenji were raised learning both English and Japanese, but Star? That's new. And I feel that it fits. You are shrouded in darkness yet shine bright when needed. Izuku shrugged. Alright, I have a new nickname now. The groups of boys, and Dark Shadow, managed to finish the English homework with ease. Denki needed a few things broken down than most teachers Izuku knew, from experience, would do, but hey. People learned differently, some need more help than others in certain subjects. A knock at the door was a surprise. The rest of the group would just walk in. Izuku got up and opened the door enough to see who it was. It was Aizawa, well better than Ida, that's for sure. I need to talk to you. Izuku nodded. Mizo passed him his bag. So, what am I needed for? The Hero Corps students have a field trip coming up to the USJ, and someone broke in. Thought that was just the press? Aizawa shook his head, opening the door to the principal's office. Shoyuta, I see you were able to get Drogo. Good, have a seat you too. Demand it, Nizu planned this, didn't he? Alastair looked around, noting all the teachers were present. He took the chair closest to the door. Better to be careful when dealing with Nizu. Why is a non-Hero Corps student here, Nizu? Ah, that's to do with Drogo being the analyst for our first years. An outside perspective would be good to point out flaws. Did you go over the costume? Those DMN things ain't FING costumes. Yaoyorozu's costume fits a SDRPR better than a hero in training. A melon's window? And what the hell is it with costumes and capes? They serve no purpose but to get the wearer killed. I understand Yairozu's quirk needs her to have skin access, but holy F dash. You could have given an opening on the back, stomach, thighs, and called it a FING day. Plus, she needs protection. Shorts would be good, and why in the ever-loving F do none of Class 1A costumes have FNG utility belts? That should be FNG required. Now young Drogo, the costume your peers chose were fine. Must All Might open his mouth? Fine. You gave Ijiro no FING shirt. Yeah, I get he's got a Harding quirk, but F dash. A quirk can't stop a FANG bullet. Also, what in the ever-loving F is it with all the free-flowing fabric? It'll just slow them down. Practicality should come before iffy flair. Heroics is about saving people, not being number one. Also, who had no brain cells to give an untrained, volatile kid support gear that compounded his explosions. Hero students don't get support gear until the second semester minimum. Another thing. Why in the ever-loving hell do so many hero students think capes are a good if an idea? It'll get them killed. Finally, most of the students' requests went FING ignored. That's not how you build rapport with heroes. Aizawa was smirking, as was Power Loader. Well, his was more like a smile. The man doesn't smirk. Okay, Drogo. How about we discuss the costumes more later? Nizu chimed in. Izuku blushed, rubbing the back of his neck. Sorry, sir. But, am I allowed to bring my gear to the USJ? Given that someone stole plans, it's only logical there's going to be an attack at the USJ, as that's the next big event. The sports festival is too far away to start making a statement, plus it's not isolated. Everyone in the world watches the festival, won't make sense to debut then. I'm guessing Aizawa told you about the break-in then? And yes, you may bring gear. Any restrictions? Nizu smiled. He was a predator. Izuku knew that, but Nizu didn't know Izuku himself was one. He'd learn soon enough. No, it's better to not need something than need it. Oh, poor Nizu doesn't know what he just did. So, that's everything, right? 'Cause I need to finish Yairozu's AI. You can go back to the labs now. Thanks, sir. Al booked but put off the office, kicking off on Sharon as soon as he was able to. May. I can bring gear to the USJ. I need Cerberus, Nyx, Nemesis, and Anubis. I'm sorry, but what are those? Oh, he didn't realize Yairozu was here. Oh, Cerberus is a capture weapon much like Aizawa-sensei's own. Then Nyx is knives that when used can blind someone, given her namesake. Nemesis is a sniper rifle that I have training for. Anubis is a chained scythe that can be used in an AoE type of attack. Might wanna add Kratos to the mix, along with Loki and Atreus. Yes, since I can split him into two and throw him. Loki's a jack of all trades mask. They're a gas mask, voice modulator, projection, and a full-on face mask. Atreus bow and arrows. Yairozu had a horrified look on her face. Remind me not to underestimate support students. But why a god theme? Oh, we just like mythology. Oh, more than me. May replied, throwing Kratos his way. Izuku caught the axe with ease, leaning it against the table his gear had taken over. Might need Proteus. No point in bringing weapons if you don't get your suit. Fair. But Yairozu, your costume's finished. I just need to finish up Athena and you're good to go. Athena? Your AI for all the chemical compounds you may need. Better than wasting time opening a big butt book. Yairozu blushed at Izuku's choice of words. Thank you, Drogo. Would you like me to tell the rest of my class that their costumes would be ready soon? Please, saves us the time of trying to wrangle them. Now shoo. We have work to do. May shooed the other girl out of the lab. Okay, so Ashido's costume is alright. We can use it as a base. The colors need to be toned down. She needs a utility belt and fingerless gloves that can act like hose heads so she has better control. Her clothes should be resistant to any level of acid. And her boots should have a skate option, so she can skate on her acid easier. What about Ajui's? Hair needs to get cut. Don't care if she beaches, she can't be dead and beach. Give her an insulated suit so she doesn't hibernate. Webbed fingerless gloves with extra padding like mine have. Keep it slick, water-resistant, and skin-tight. Can't have her sink when she's trying to swim. Get rid of the goggles. Keep the aprons, but make it her whole torso. Yeah, I don't know what they were thinking. So we have Azui, Ashido's, and Yayarose's blueprints. Who's next, boss? Aoyama. He needs to get rid of the Fing cape. Plus the armor does nothing but weigh him down. And the belt sheet, we could make a system to spread the beam to other parts of his body like his hands and feet. Gives him an easier time using and us less time tearing our hair out over hero course stupidity. Mei snorted, spraying herself with her energy drink. Dimin. You want me to take Idas? Please, I'm not dealing with him willingly. And if I do, I'm not me. Got it? Temitsu Kin, a fellow support student, and Fat Gum's son, kicked down the door. I know for a fact that you two haven't eaten yet. The ginger-haired kid spoke, holding 3 trays piled with food. Izuku's had katsudon, pad thai, miso soup, and sushi. Mei's had pad thai, dumplings, and soba noodles. Both trays had kimchi and 3 bottles of water. Kin's plate had 2 bowls of curry and a bottle of water. Thanks, Kin. How are your pops doing? Kin nodded as he spooned curry into his mouth. Pops is doing good, Nana's been doing better. How's the food? Izuku scoffed. Food's always good, Kin. You never make bad food, you can't with your quirk. You and Lunch Rush always make the best lunches. Mei added. Once the trio finished lunch, Kin collected their trays, leaving behind a bento for each of the workaholics he called friends, knowing they would forget food existed. Especially trying to fix the mess that was Class 1 as costumes. It took 2 more hours to blueprint out the rest of the costumes. This was going to be an all-nighter. If Alastair's theory was right, his brother's class needed good costumes and gear if they wanted to see the next sunrise. The next morning at 5 on the dot exactly, Izuku and Mei climbed to the rooftop and waited for the sunrise. Next week's gonna be dangerous. We both know your theories are normally right. And Izuku, don't die too much, K? I need my brother around to help make babies, you know. Mei said, eating the bento Kin dropped off yesterday. Izuku scoffed. Yeah, I don't plan on leaving you to conquer the support world alone. That's the move. Mei shoved him lightly with her shoulder. Better not. The pair spent the early morning on the roof, going back into the labs and working on the actual building of the gear. If any of the girls' costumes have heels, get rid of them. No hero should be doing work in heels. Uraraka's should be semi-skin tight, given her quirk and how it can be used. Size down her gauntlets and add protection to the suit. She needs the protection from a high fall if she ever overuses her quirk and drops it while in the air. Okay, next on the list is Ojiro Mashireo. His costume's just a GI. Extra padding, reinforced boots for harder kicks, no flowing fabric. Denki's costume's okay. I give him headgear for signals, and rods to keep any overcurrent away from his brain. Already did Aijiro's. Koji's needs longer pants, muted colors and longer sleeves, maybe a redone mask with an amplifier for the sound waves. Mei nodded, poking Izuku with a pencil. Yeah, those sound good. Denki's clothes should have rubber insulted to redirect current. Sato needs a stretchy material for his quirk. And more pockets on his belt and pants cut the headpiece of the suit off. A hood would be better. Also, the same tablet system Amajiki has, along with the mouthpiece. Extra padding and brass knuckles. His close combat style needs them. The base was surprisingly good. At least a small amount of the class has common sense. Alastair hummed, taking a sip of his water. Mizo's costume is pretty good. The only change I would make is the routine one, and making the shirt has retractable sleeves. Kyoka could use directional speakers like Present Mike has, and then just the routine changes. Zero could use Spider-Man-based support gear, so he doesn't always need to bend his elbows. Treat them like web shooters. Along with the routine changes. Hey you two. How are the costumes going along? I brought lunch, same thing as last time. Kin said, pushing the door open with his foot. Fake it. They're going well. You gonna join us? Kin shook his head. Nah, Heya wants to hang out. How much longer till you finished with them? Day or 2 maybe. If we don't run into issues. Kin places the trays on the table behind the pair, leaving with a quick goodbye. The two grabbed their trays and continued work, better get it done sooner than later. Fumi's costume could use an overcoat instead of a cape, less flowing fabric. And he needs knives. Give him gloves with retractable talons and a reinforced vest. And you know the rest. Oh, can I make the knives? I want to make a set. Mei was bouncing up and down. I'll scoffed. Sure, don't go too overboard. Izuku took a bite of his lunch, polishing off the kimchi. You're effing shitting me. Mei was said. She found another horrendous costume. Then, Bad costume? Bad costume? It's a effing hunk of fabric half encased in ice. Izuku dropped his chopsticks, turning to Mei slowly. Name now. Oh hell no. He already dealt with enough half-butted costumes yesterday. Todoroki Shoto. He's got a half-ice half-fire quirk. No temperature regulation, nothing. Izuku pushed away his tray, grabbing the file from Mei. That's it. Class 1A is in English right now, yeah? Blueprint that out while I got to scream at Todoroki for his lack of brain cells. All of them must have frozen when he got his quirk. Making his way to present mixed classroom was easy, and the door was closed. Good, he can kick it in then. Kicking the door open with a slam louder than most of Bakuga's explosions, Izuku storms into the room. Todoroki, get up right now before I drag you two-tone but out by your itty hair. What is the ever-loving F were you thinking when you requested that costume, if you were thinking at all? Hoo boy, he's seething. Alright, tone it down before you deck the brat. Tamura was trying not to laugh. Denki had no shame laughing at the absurdity of his friend busting down a classroom door. Mizo and Kyoka were in the same boat as Kenji. Ijiro was covering his head on his desk, shaking. Koji just started at Izuku wide-eyed. Todoroki was confused. He didn't know this green and white-haired boy who was yelling at him. I'm sorry, but who are you, and why are you talking about my costume? Support course, among others, Drogo Alaster. The crazy BSTRD that thought it was a good idea to redesign all of your classmates' costumes in 2 days. Please tell me Kin's been feeding you too, Tamura begged. Yeah, hasn't gotten us to sleep much. But back on topic. The only costume I didn't have to change a single thing on was Kenji's, and that's because he knows I would have killed him if he came to me with a shitty costume. Now, I'm going to go back to the labs and fix your F-ed up costume, Todoroki. And I don't give a shit about that entire bit about you not using half of your quirk. You'll die once you hit the real world if you keep being a little beach. He turned to present Mike, giving a quick nod. Sorry about interrupting your lesson, sensei. Present Mike gave a nod and Izuku left, rushing back to the labs. I already fixed it. That costume would have killed you. Bakugo needs the gauntlets gone. The headpiece isn't useful. Give him a compression shirt like Hado to store sweat. And the routine changes. I'll pack up the rest of their costumes while you work on Bakuga's, then it's about DMN time we sleep. Mei nodded. Sure thing, boss, sure thing. Today was the day. Izuku hopes he's wrong, he rarely is. He and Mei watched the sunrise with bated breath. The sky was red, and it wasn't the pretty kind either. It was the calm before the storm kind. He also knew no matter how hard he wanted to keep his promise to Mei, he knew better. They both did. Izuku went over his gear for the day. Cerberus, Nyx, Nemesis, and Anubis were givens. As were Loki, Atreus, Kratos, and Proteus, who was a suit made of any terrain along with the routine changes. Then there were the reinforced boots and fingerless gloves. The suit was unbreakable given it was made out of vibranium. Ares, a cleaver sword, and the twin pistols Artemis and Apollo. You want to add anything else? Yeah, pack in 3 sets of both 8 and a sheet ton of lighters. Never know when you're going to need marble-sized explosives. Poseidon might be a good idea for another ranged weapon. The USJ has multiple water-based rescue areas. You hacked into the U.A servers again? Better to have a basic idea of what you're facing than you in blind, you know that. Point. I'm going to drop off the costumes now. Don't blow up the lab too bad. Izuku strapped enough knives to his person to make someone a pincushion, along with Artemis strapped to his thigh, Apollo's holster on his right shoulder. You're leaving with 2 guns? Really? The safety's on, it'll be fine. Before May could yell at him for walking around campus with 2 loaded guns and knives on his person, Izuku could care less. Today wasn't a day to follow the rules. Collecting the costumes and stacking them on 2 carts, he made his way toward the Class 1A homeroom. He could hear the yelling of Bakugo and Ida, the laughter of Denki and Kenji. Pushing the door open with his foot, Alastor nodded to the sentient sleeping bag that was Aizawa and made his way in front of his desk and sat on it. Giving off a sharp whistle, the class quieted. "I got your improved costumes. Come and get them." Ida was up first, noting the twin guns Izuku had. "You shouldn't have live weapons on campus. They go against the school rules," says the kid who could kill a man with a single kick. "You all have quirks that could be considered deadly weapons. I simply went the traditional route." Ida chopped an arm in Izuku's face. "Aizawa-sensei, please tell Drogo that live weapons aren't allowed on campus." Aizawa groaned, sitting up and unzipping his sleeping bag. "The kid has a license to carry. Nizu also permitted him to carry around weapons for today. I need to get that changed. Better to just have them all the time." Bakugo scoffed. "You must have a pretty weak quirk then." "Hey man, Dal's one of the smartest guys I know. Weak quirk or not." Denki defended him. "Hey Denkach." Izuku grabbed Denki's case and tossed it to him, the blonde catching it with a small fumble. The teen placed his case on the nearest desk and opened it. "Holy shit. You weren't kidding when you said you redesigned them. What's it made out of?" "A rubber-insulted Kevlar to help redirect current away from your brain and into the ground. The rods serve the same purpose. Another measure to ensure you don't go into shutdown mode is an external storage drive that stores any extra and used current. The headset has a built-in distress signal that gets sent to Nizu and May in case you need backup. There's also comms embedded into that. All of your costumes have vibranium comm sets for ease of communication. They're also terrain resistant. Anything you can I think of I covered. And before any of you ask, yes, I redid the costumes for the USJ, so you better wear them." "Where the F are my gauntlets extra?" "Oh shit." Bakugo found out he wasn't allowed his toys anymore. "You shouldn't have had M in the first place. You're an untrained first year who doesn't know the definition of the word control. Whoever made those for you is losing their hands. Problem child. Don't maim your classmates, even if they're idiots." Izuku bent backward, making eye contact with Aizawa. "Stop taking away my fun, old man." Alastor's phone pinged. He was wondering when Nizu was going to find his number. Jumping off the desk, Izuku pushed the 2 carts out of the room. "I gotta go, but Yayarozu. If you're worried about the fabric, don't, it's self-healing." Izuku got back to the labs in record time. May was setting up her monstrosity of a computer setup. "Hey, I'm going to change real quick. Nizu texted me and said we leave in 5. "Alright, I'm all set up. Kick soba K." Izuku was dressed and kicked out within a minute. Grabbing Sharon on his way out, Izuku got to the bus just as Class 1A got there. Grabbing the board and shrinking it down to the size of a Rubik's Cube with the touch of a button, Izuku made his way over to his friends. Tamura slung an arm around Al, rough filing his hair. "Hey little man. Ready for some rescue training?" Kenji tapped his hand 5 times. "Ready to fight for our lives?" "Yeah, it'll be good practice." Izuku tapped back 3 times. "Have to be." They got onto the bus. Denki and Ijiro sat together. Koji and Kyoka together with Fumikage and Mizo together. Tamura and Izuku sat near Aizawa, the rest of their group sitting clustered behind them. "Problem child. What weapons do you bring?" Aizawa looked more tired than usual. "I brought Nemesis, Nyx, Anubis, Kratos, Atreus, Ares, Apollo and Artemis, Ates, and finally Poseidon. Nem's the sniper rifle on my back. Nyx is knives that can blind among other things and stash anywhere I can fit a knife. Anubis is the chain wrapped around my right forearm. The scythe itself is on my right hip. Atreus hangs off my left shoulder, his quiver on my right thigh. Apollo's is holstered on my right shoulder while Artemis is on my left thigh and Ares is the cleaver sword strapped to my waist on the left side. Poseidon's in pen form right now, then I've got Icarus attached embedded into my suit for ease of travel. Finally, Kratos rests on my lower back, full-sized. Denki whistled. Holy sheet, man. You're prepped, huh? Izuku shrugged. Might as well see what I can use in rescue training, you know? Izuku pulled out the map of the USJ and spent the rest of the bus trip committing it to memory. No point in going in blind. The outside of the USJ was a big glass dome. Izuku knew the place like the back of his hand thanks to the map and Mei filling his head with anything he could know about the place as they redid the costumes. He blocked out 13th speech. No point in taking in information that won't matter. Aizawa, incoming. Izuku knew that feeling in his bones, the itch that warned him of the possibility of upcoming death. Hopefully, Mei won't be too sad if he dies a few times. Equipping Apollo in one hand and one of Nyx in the other, Izuku lunged at the opening purple warp portal. Sheet. Did one of Dad's commanders go rouge? Uncle Giri knew about the trip today. Izuku shot the first low-level thug through the shoulder as soon as the shark-headed woman stepped through. Dad never wanted to go against you today. He knew Nizu was against the commission, so why in the F was there an attack today? It doesn't matter, figure it out once they're all dead. Dancing around a portal, Izuku stabbed the shark-headed woman through the brain. 1 down, 20 more to go. Lunging at the next thug, ready to blow their brains out. Izuku never made contact. He landed on his feet next to Azui and Denki in the flood zone. Not Dad then. He'd make sure Azui went to the volcanic zone if he was leading this attack. Placing Nyx back into its sheath, Izuku uncapped Poseidon, the trident expanding with a flourish. At least 20 thugs were swimming their way. Denki, release a charge into the water, only 120 volts. I'll take care of the rest. Turning on his comms, Izuku heard the chaos of his peers fighting for their lives. Good, they were all online. Kenji, who's with you right now? I've got Yaoyorozu and Mizo. You. Azui and Denki. We're in the flood zone. I already took out a threat. He could hear a shot ring out. Mine's 5. Aizawa was left in the plaza by himself against Rogers and 10 others last I knew. All right. Throwing Poseidon just as Denki released a charge, the count of thugs went from 20 to none. We gotta move. Azui head to the Strum zone, Denki go to mountain. Keep your comms on. They go offline, I'm assuming you're dead. Tell that to anyone you come across. The pair nodded, Denki looking a little green. Where are you going, Karo? Azui asked. I'm going to circle back to the plaza if I can and kill anyone who tries and stops me. Ethics be demanded. Izuku tied Icarus around the of Poseidon before the trio split off. Izuku jumped over the railing and before landing throwing Poseidon into the wall and rocketing towards it, feet out to stop the collision after flicking on the cleats. Landing with a light thud, he recapped Poseidon, swapping the trident out for a truce. No one looks above after all. Wall running and taking out any thugs on the way was the easy part. Noticing that Bakugu and Koji were having some trouble, Izuku let loose a barrage of arrows before landing next to Koji with a throw of Poseidon. Hey Koji. You alright? Yeah, thanks for your help with the villains. Izuku nodded, smiling at his friend. No problem. Moving on quickly, Izuku checked in with Tamura again. Yo, round up the class. Keep them together and out of the plaza. I'm on cleanup duty. Count. 35 you? 39. Wait, nope, 40 I think. One's just a blood stain. Save some for the rest of will you? Izuku dropped the call and climbed back up the wall. Vantage points are important when dealing with groups. Humming a song to himself, Izuku enters the plaza, taking a catalog of everything. Aizawa was about to get decked by a Nomo, odd. They were sentient enough to disregard orders, so why weren't they? Doctor must have F'd with their brain somehow. Rogers was smiling and monologuing about how he was going to topple Hero Society. Izuku was all for reworking society, but DMN dude, there are other ways to go about it than whipping out the human race and rebuilding from square one. DMN, time to disappoint Mei. Swapping Atreus to Nemesis and lining up and shooting to go through the Nomu's hand was the easy part. The hard part? Keeping them entertained long enough and not staying dead for long enough for them to get bored and go back to Aizawa. Quickly taking around the 15 other thugs he could see with Nemesis, Izuku threw Poseidon into the Nomu's shoulder and let the momentum carry him. He kicks the jaw with his reinforced boots, stabbing nicks into their neck, taking out one of their main senses. Quickly dispatching them with a gunshot to the exposed brain, Izuku didn't account for the Nomu falling backward. Sheet, jumping off the falling creature, a shot for a gun that wasn't. Izuku rings out, a bullet going through his heart. Well, sheet. At least he can just get back up again without issue. Standing up with a grunt, Izuku makes eye contact with Rogers, giving him a grin. Well, now that's just rude, man. What the F are you? The ginger-haired man was horrified. The people he's killed stayed down. Human, I think. Haven't had the time to figure that out yet. Rogers raised his gun again. Maybe it just grazed. A headshot should kill the kid, and it did. Izuku was fine with being killed once. It's an honest mistake. But twice, by the same guy no less? Rushing the guy and getting 2 more shots in his head. Well, one went through his eye, but that's more a technicality than anything. Grabbing Roger's dominant hand and crushing it was laughably easy. Did the guy not drink milk or something? The gun dropped with a clatter. Izuku kicked it Aizawa's way, who was about to join the fray. Stay where you are and patch yourself up. I'll take care of this pig. Grabbing onto the guy's shoulder, Izuku kicked his legs out from under him, breaking his left leg. Buddy, what the F were you thinking? You're a support kid. You're not supposed to be here. Izuku shrugged. I got a day pass. Another thug, probably Roger's right hand, tackled Izuku, punching him twice in the face. You motherfucker. I'll kill you. He was screaming in his face. Demon, couldn't the guy tone it down? He was right there. Shoving his hand into the guy's mouth, Izuku curled his fingers around the back of the guy's bottom teeth and pulled as hard as he could. The jaw came off. Oops, too much then. Well, time to just end it then. A single shot rang out and Izuku's was showered in blood. Looking through the peephole, Izuku saw Velis and Cernunos eating FE popcorn. Tossing the corpse aside, Izuku stands now covered in the guy's blood and spit. Shaking his head like a dog, blood sprayed everywhere. Damn, he needs a shower. Making his way over the Rogers prone form, Izuku grabs his head by the scalp and tears it right off. Of course, that's when Class 1A and the heroes get there. Turning to Aizawa, who looked sick at whatever state Izuku was in. Can I take a nap? I haven't slept for nearly 3 days now. Aizawa must have blue-screened for a minute until he nodded. Sure, kid. Just do it away from the corpses. Izuku hummed and made his way to Tamura, holding his arms out. Tamura scooped him up with ease, and Izuku rested his head on the other boy's shoulder. Take a nap, little man. You did well. Tamura looked at his classmates. Did he just fall asleep, covered in blood? Ishido asked. Yeah, hasn't slept in almost 3 days now. Blood or not, the kid's body said it was nap time. What the F dash? He ripped a guy's head clean off. Rikido looked sick. Momo made a bucket for him to puke in. The eternity of Class 1A and even the heroes looked like they were going to be sick. But hey, everyone in the class was alive with minimal injury, so Kenji would call that a success. The kid was shot in the chest, Drogo. He might still have the bullet in there. Tamura nodded, waking up Alaster. Give me the bullet and you can go back to your nap, K? Al grumbled before sticking 2 fingers in the hole where his heart should be, pulling out the bullet and handing it to Tamura, who gave it to a random police officer, before picking up Al again and letting him go back to sleep. Should we be concerned about the kid? The same officer asked. Nah, he just needs a nap. Any injuries he got are already patched up. Al's good with field medicine. The police force had collected all the bodies and lined them up in the plaza. Before you ask, I only got 35 of them. The other 70 are ALs. I'm sorry. You're saying a child took out 70 villains by himself? All Might asked. Yeah, none of us got to the plaza until you did. I was rounding up the class and tending to any serious wounds. Alaster did all this himself. Drogo's not wrong. Problem Child did it all himself, even took care of the Nomu. The kid's good with the weapons he has. I'm sorry, you let a child use weapons? The same officer who Kenji gave the bullet asked. Quirks are tools just like weapons are. Problem Child was just leveling the playing field. Aizawa commented, glaring at the woman. Okay, let's let the kids get cleaned up, then we can figure out what to do with all this. Izuku woke up in a hospital room. He needs to get out. Why the hell is he in the hospital? He's fine. Trying to sit up is futile given that Izuku's been strapped down to the bed and cuffed. Calm down, young Drogo. You're alright, you're in the hospital. That was All Might. Why was All Might watching over him? I'm fine, but I need to get out. I can't be in here. They're gonna find me, I need to get out. My boy, you took a bullet to the heart and got back up. You're not fine. And if you're worried about someone hurting you, they can't. I'm not being abused. My family cares for me. I just want out. I did nothing wrong but defend myself. He could hear the shuffling of feet, the illness of those who died in pain. The screams for someone to help. He can feel the cold touch of the dead. A woman's holding his ankle in a death grip. He can't move. She's reaching for his face with a skinless hand, trying to grab him for whatever reason. Get the straps and cuffs off now. I want my brother. All Might looked angry at the plea for Tamura. My boy, your brother, is currently being asked questions about why he let a child fight for him and his classmates' lives. He wasn't even with me until the end of the fight. He couldn't have told me to do anything. I made the choice myself. All Might sighed. My boy, I called your mother and she's going to talk you home, alright? You're free from your father, now. All Might released Izuku's straps, but the cuffs stayed on before getting up and opening the door for Inko. The short green-haired woman rushed forward and hugged him tightly, using her quirk to pull on his now scarred heart. Oh, Izuku. Baby, you're okay now. Those two can't hurt you anymore. I was so worried when you went missing. Inko's the one who hurt him, never Dad or Tomo. Missing? Was everything a lie? He thought Inko left, not him. I'm okay, but where's my stuff? Inko smiled at Izuku sadly. Oh, honey, you don't need all those weapons. They're too dangerous. Your friend May came and collected them. At least they weren't destroyed. A doctor came in, smiling at Izuku. Ah, Midoriya. It's good to see you awake. You should be able to leave by tomorrow afternoon. One of your teachers and Aizawa wanted to see how you were doing. Would you like your mother to come with you? Before Izuku could get a word in, Inko spoke for him. I would love to meet my son's teacher. Shoyuta was in the hospital, Hizashi in the chair next to the bed. I wonder how the little listener's doing. Hello, Aizawa-sensei, Mike-sensei. I'm all right. The problem child entered with a woman that had a striking resemblance to him, a mother? Drogo had no mother listed as a contact, only his father, uncle, and aunt. Hello, I'm Midoriya Inko, Izuku's mother. The man that claimed to be his father had taken him 10 months ago, along with another boy. Shoyuta had to admit that she was a good liar, but Shoyuta was trained to catch them. By the look Izuku was giving him, he needed to play along. It's nice to meet the boy who saved my life's mother. I'm guessing you're the one who taught him how to fight. Inko looked horrified at that. Oh no, my Izuku's quirkless. That monster's the one who trained him to be a soldier. By the way, Izuku curled into himself slightly. It was obvious the kid was a soldier beforehand. Most quirkless people are if they don't desert. He knows to keep his opinion to himself. It'll only make it worse for Izuku in the end. Izuku was back in the apartment. Inko wanted to take him out of view today, but given that he wasn't in the hero house, he was able to stay. But he had to come home twice a month on the weekend to make sure nothing like that monster happened again. He can't run yet, he'll wait until the heat calms down. Tamura and Dad are under investigation and can't be seen around him. Hopefully, it doesn't take long. Inko's been coddling him ever since he got back. He knows it's a bad thing to admit, but he liked her back when she tried to kill him, or just didn't give a shit. Texting May quickly to update her on this clusterfuck, then rolling off the bed and getting under the covers. He needed a nap. Getting to UA the next day was a pain. The press had crowed the gates trying to get UA to spill anything about the USJ. Izuku went around them, thankfully wearing a hoodie over his uniform, and hopped the wall just as he turned the corner. He rushed to Class 1A. He needed his brother right now. Kenji! He shouted as soon as he opened the door, rushing over to his brother. Hey, little man. Tamura was playing with Izuku's hair as he sat on his lap. What's got else so emotional? Uraraka asked. Izuku glared at her. Off, I'm not in the mood to deal with fools. Alright, enough chatting. Drogo, shouldn't you be in business right now? I'm not moving, and if you try and move me you'll lose your eyes. Aizawa nodded, unfazed. I'll tell Ectoplasm you're sticking with Kenji today. Izuku moved to the desk next to his brother, which placed him on the left of Bakugo. I find it funny that you're so much of a wimp you need your big brother to calm you down extra. He wasn't dealing with this today. Stabbing one of Kenji's knives between Bakugo's pointer and middle finger, he glared at the blonde through his braids. Keep it up and you'll lose your hands, Bakugo. And we both know you're useless if you have no hands. Stop threatening your peers, Drogo. This isn't a life or death situation. Speaking of that, Sensei, why was a support student at the USJ? You never really explained it. Being a hero isn't all about just punching the villains. It's about analyzing them to understand how to take them down with the least casualties. Like both Drogos did before fighting anyone. Problem child, Nizu wants to see you. Kenji gave him a head pat as he hands Izuku his bag. Izuku knocked on the principal's door, opened it, and walked into the room with Nizu, All Might, Mirio, and another man present. Possibly Sir Knight, given that Mirio was mentored by him before All Might gave him OFS. Take a seat, Alastair. Now, I'd like to go over the USJ given that you had killed 70 villains there. Izuku took the only one seat between Mirio and All Might. So, this is the boy who's killed 70 villains and a Nomu single-handed? Isn't he Quirkless Nizu? Sir Knight, I asked. It's always about quirks. Mirai Sasaki, formerly known as Pro-Hero Sir Knight I. Aside from his quirk, Knight I's abilities lay in his intellect. He acted as the brains for All Might during their partnership. Knight I uses his intelligence to come up with strategies to tackle situations and make sure the best outcome could be achieved. Sir Knighty's quirk allowed him to see another person's future from a third person's point of view. His quirk activates only with skin contact than eye contact with them. This quirk stayed active for 1 hour and has a 24-hour resting PRD before it could be activated again. While his quirk was active, he could see as far as years into a person's future. Your quirks for the rest of the 20 hours of the day, yet you see to be basing my worth solely on that I have no quirk. What are you trying to prove here, boy? I'm trying to prove that being quirkless doesn't mean we're useless. Mirio was glaring at him for talking back to his mentor. Izuku could care less, he just wanted cuddles from his friends right now. I'm going to play the footage. Wait for questions until after. Izuku wanted to block it out but knew better than to drift with threats in the room. It took 45 minutes for the footage to be finished. Mei had edited out the parts where Izuku died and made it look like he was just heavily injured. He needed to take her out for ice cream after this. You seemed too prepared about the attack. Did you know about it? I had a super vague idea due to the break-in and what Nizu told me, so I came extra prepared. It's just common sense. My boy, why did you use excessive violence when dealing with the villains? All Might pressed. This wasn't some big show for the press. It was life or death. There are no ethics in surviving. I and my brother survived. An outsider's opinion on that doesn't matter. The dead don't care after all. That's not heroics, my boy. All Might scoffed. Even if I had plans to become a hero, which I do, I'd be a better one than you ever could be. Izuku grabbed his bag and stormed out, going to Gym Gamma to break some sheet. What the hell happened here, problem? Child? Izuku turns, currently shirtless and sweating buckets. Oh, I got sick with All Might's sheet. Knight, I thought I was helping the villains. His sensei's eyes flashed red. I'm sorry? They thought you, the kid you killed 70 people and saved my life, was a traitor. I'm used to that though. I'm Quirkless, a second-class citizen. The white-haired man, or as the bald guy said, Yoichi, seemed to understand what Izuku was saying. He knew the story of Dad and his little brother, of how the brother was sickly, as was Yoichi, or at least sickly-looking. So that was Dad's little brother making Yoichi his uncle. Well, sheet, kid's quicker on the pickup than most. Name's Daigoro. The now dubbed Daigoro smiled at him. Kid, quirk or not, you're still a person. Izuku hums, putting his shirt back on and cleaning up the broken punching bags. Aizawa left once he realized he wasn't going to get much out of the kid. So you're my dad's brother, right? Izuku asked. I am. Hisashi told you about the story of all for one and one for all then. Yeah, so why are you all following me around and not Mirio? The guy with a spiky ponytail scoffed. Yagi chose wrong. You'd be a better ninth than that brat. Izuku blushed, rubbing the back of his neck. I plan on going into underground heroics. Have OFA would force me to go spotlight. I just want to save people, not climb the ranks. The spirit hummed. Name's Shimoda-ko. I was the third user of One for All. Yoichi was first and Daigoro was fifth. Haikage Shinomori, the guy with the scar going through his left eye, was the fourth. The guy with the gauntlets is Anno Yutaka. En's the sixth user, he's the silent grouch. Then there's Nana, she was Yagi's mentor. Why am I being told this? I know you said Mirio's AD, but that can't be the only reason. Shimoda chuckled. Dim, you are your nephew's FING genius. But you're right. That's not the only reason. Due to you having AFO, you can give and take quirks, and due to that I want to give you mine. But I could use your quirks for villainous reasons. Izuku, the only reason you or Tamura would become villains is due to there being nothing left for you. After all, soon enough, if the only thing you've been told your entire life is that you're worth nothing or a villain, who would blame you for listening? Yoichi explained with an air of sadness. His uncle knew personally, after all, that people are cruel when they don't understand something. Izuku stood silent for a moment before nodding to himself. All right, I'll take your quirk. But how does this affect Mirio? Daigoro sighed. We've all been pulling away slowly, which is why the brat's having such a hard time with his quirk and OFA, but we don't pull away fully until we move on to someone else. In this case, giving our quirks to you. And to be honest, Mirio deserves it. He's going to end up like Endeavor in the end. My quirk's called FA Gene. It allows you to build up and store kinetic energy as you move. This energy can then be released as an explosive burst of speed and power. You can rename it if you want. Yagi and Mirio don't know about the use of being able to give our quirks though, so it's not going to expose you if you don't rename it. Izuku nodded, focusing on the second user's core. Once he found the light blue wisp that was FA Gene, Izuku pulled gently. He knew Shimoda was dead, but losing your quirk hurts both the dead and living. The group waited a moment until Izuku smiled at them. There we go, I'll need to find a way to test this out. Might have to go to Maze later. Mirio felt odd, like something was missing. One for All felt weaker. Didn't Yagi-sensei say that it only got stronger as it was passed on? How could it get weaker? Don't you live with Hisashi? Yoichi asked, confused. I did. All Might pulled some strings or some sheet and Inko spun this tale of me being kidnapped by Dad, so I'm back living with her. Yoichi was said. She tried to kill you for years. Why the hell would anyone let you near her? Izuku shrugged. All Might's the #1 hero. People don't care what goes on behind closed doors if it doesn't affect them. Izuku grabbed his bag, going to the Gen Ed dorms. Sato Akira greeted him with a hug. Hey man. You doing any better? They asked, ready to use their quirk at Izuku's say-so. As good as I can be. Who's doing dinner tonight? Kira sighed. You's got dinner covered, bro. You should take a nap, man. I'll wake you up in time for dinner. Izuku hummed, not processing what Akira said. Getting to his room isn't a challenge. His dorm mates know each other's tics. Izuku face-planted onto his bed and slept for whoever knows how long. The only people keeping him company right now were the vestiges and the trio. Izuku came back to the land of the living with a cold touch on his forehead. Opening his eyes, Izuku saw Velis sitting on the end of his bed. Hey, how long did I sleep? A few hours. You made a pork stew tonight. Your portion's still in the oven to keep it warm. Izuku swung his legs over the side, standing with a stretch. He made his way to the kitchen and grabbed his bowl of stew, sitting on one of the couches in the common room. Jean was still up, probably wanting to make sure Izuku ate something. Hey Jean, you can head to bed now. I've got dinner, I'm all good. The class president looks at the green-haired boy with a raised eyebrow. All right, go back to bed after you finish eating. Izuku could feel the effect of Jin's quirk orders slipping over him. He nodded, tapping his knee twice to show he's under the effect of order. The next day was a mess. He was woken up by Oboro flicking his forehead. Smacking away the Cloud Boy's hand, Izuku changed into a fresh uniform. He's gotten used to the invisible eyes on him. He could care less if they saw him naked. Hey Squirt. You've got business today. Hopefully, ectoplasm moves your seat away from those three assholes. Popping his back, Izuku tied his tie with quick fingers, looking in the mirror at the now stark white hair. Inko made his wash the dye out. He had his business classes today. Damn it Oboro, why couldn't he let Izuku have some peace? Great, he's got to deal with those quirkest Fs. Izuku groans. He should meet with Nizu soon to see if the stout still wants to go through with the plan of Izuku becoming his personal student. Velis held up the set of ropes and clothes he was working on. You've gotten good. Do you still have that stash of money? We could use it for a sewing machine so you're not using your hands all the time. Thanks, and yeah, I should have enough. Munin nipped at his ear. We should start the parkour training tonight. You should hang around parks during the day since we can't exactly venture into the woods with Inko around. Izuku hummed, looking over at Oboro. Anything you want to add, Cloud Boy? The older teen laughed. Nah, you kicked butt at the USJ. Me teaching you can wait, the trio has more important things. I'd also tell Sho about the whole Quirkless issue. He can help with FA Gene. The heat needs to die down, Obio. Too many bombshells dropped this close together is just asking for trouble. Izuku made his way to the kitchen, taking a cup of coffee from Junko, dancing around the other boy. Izuku notes the blue bracelet on his wrist, and grabbing the bagel hero holds out to him along with a bento he stored in his bag. Thank you too, see you in English? Junko hums, handing out more coffee to the rest of the dorm, Jean using his quirk, order on Fumiko before she can create a sleep-induced illusion. Yeah, now sit your crazy butt down before I have Etsu tie you to a chair with her ribbons. Izuku flinches, he doesn't want to be tied down again. It can't be. He needs to get out. Sorry but I promised May I would walk with her to the labs. Izuku leaves, rushing to get to class. Hey, watch where you're going. Kono Lee shouted at him. She was a second-year business student. Sorry. I didn't mean to bump into you, Kono-san. Alastair tried to move past the older girl so he could get to his seat, but one of her friends, Uno Ren, another second year, grabbed him. I'm surprised you're still trying this. Thought you would have quit by now. Nulls aren't known to be anything other than the dirt under our shoes, you know. Alastair flinched, trying to get his arm free. He knew most people didn't like him, he heard the whispers after all, but for someone to call him a slur to his face? He thought Yurare was different. Uno let go once the bell rang. Izuku rushed to his seat, taking the one in the back corner. Alright, if you haven't finished any reports I'm giving you a free PRD to work on them. Izuku pulled out a report on how villainous quirks could be used for heroics among other things. It took him around 20 minutes to finish the report, turning it into ectoplasm before heading back to his seat to work on the math packet he had. The bell rang 10 minutes later. Izuku was already out the door. Hey, Drogo! Hearing someone shout his name was odd. Most people didn't bother with him. It was Siro from 1A. Making his way over, Izuku saw Bakugu leaning against the wall. What's up? Dude, you kicked butt at the USJ. You gotta tell us your quirk. Izuku paled. I don't use my quirk all that much. Bakugu went pale at that. He kept staring at Izuku's blood-red high tops. Sheet. He needs to get out before Bakugo links sheet together. The blonde grabbed his wrist, pulling Izuku closer. Deku, what the F are you doing here? OF dash. Hey Bakugo. I enrolled here. He should have expected Bakugo to get angry, said even. That was Bakugo's default after all. Bakugo threw a right hook and the only reason Izuku was able to dodge was due to Bakugo being that predictable. Bringing his left leg up, Izuku kicked Bakugo in the side, jumping back before his tormentor even hit the ground. Something wrapped around Alastair's middle and still high on the adrenaline Izuku trashed, trying to get out of the binds. Let him go. Calm down, problem child. Siro, bring Bakugo to recovery girl then get to your next class. Aizawa moved back into the 1A classroom, sitting behind his desk and releasing Izuku from his capture weapon into a seat directly in front of him. You're not one to attack unprovoked. Izuku gulped, steeling himself before speaking. You can trust Sho. He went through similar things when he was a kid. Oboro chimed in from where he leaned against the door frame. Bakugu and I were childhood friends. He got his quirk, I didn't. Aizawa hummed. Anything else you want to add? Izuku clenched his fists, his knuckles going white. I'm quirkless, he's not. What else is there to add? Collecting his bag, Izuku ran out of the room, making his way to the roof. Shinso was hanging out on the roof. Izuku hopes he doesn't have to talk the boy down. Hey, Shinso. His voice was quiet. Talking just had to be a struggle today, huh? The other teen turned, nodding. Yeah, and you're Kenji's little brother. You're quirkless, right? Yeah, and you have the cool brainwashing quirk. I would change the name. Mindful could be a good name. Alludes to your quirk without saying it outright. Alastair moved over to the bench Shinso was sitting on and opened his bento. Sounds nice. Shinso stands, packs up his bento and leaves the roof. Luckily he didn't take a quick way down. He's a nice kid. Shimoda comments. Yeah. Velis, want to start training tonight? Could we do it in the void? Velis brightened at the suggestion. Oh, yeah, you should be able to enter the void and change the terrain up for training so we don't have to risk everything. The second user, Ano Yutaka, grunted. You need to eat better, kid. You'll drop one of these days. Nana hummed. I can teach you recipes if you want. I already know how to cook you too. I've just been busy, but I'll make my lunch for tomorrow tonight. Ano scowled. All right, kid. Bakugu grumbled. I'm telling you that Deku's name is Midoriya Izuku, not whatever sheet you've got on file. And how do you know that, Bakugu? The blonde scoffed. I knew the wimp since we were kids. Auntie said that he went missing a while back, and then this Drogo guy pops up with the same hair and same dim red shoes as Deku. Niza sighed. If you think this is true, I'll call in Drogo and we'll figure it out. Now head back to class. Bakugu stood with a huff, shoulder-checking Aizawa when he entered the office. What was that about? Aizawa asked, sitting down on the couch. Drogo Alastair and Drogo Kenji aren't who they say they are. Their true names are Midoriya Izuku and Midoriya Tamura. But I already knew that. Why didn't you deny their application then? Niza smiled. Because it seemed that both boys were running from something. And it seems that I was right. After all Might had pulled some strings after the USJ with the commission to get Midoriya back under his mother's care. Which from what we already know isn't a good thing. It's why I haven't been able to do anything. The entire staff is under scrutiny from the commission, and if I tried to help, they could just end up as commission weapons, much like Hawks is. So that's why you accepted Yagi onto the staff. The commission pushed for it. You'll need to push back the lesson on the quirkless community, which is a shame if what I've seen from some of our business students is true. But please keep a close eye on the brothers, maybe plan another training session. We need them to trust us if we even were to think about helping them and their father. Is it possible that the younger Midoriya isn't quirkless? There are outdated tests. Nizu tapped his chin. It's possible, but that's something we can investigate once they're safe. Izuku walked into English, giving a smile to present Mike. Izuku treated English as a free PRD to work on analysis or any other languages that interested him. Taking out number 17 of his notebooks, Izuku continued on the analysis of Kyoka and Denki being a good tag team, along with any weaknesses for them as a team and solo. Noting present Mike checking on other students in Izuku's row, he swapped to his current language notebook, number 23. Oh, whatcha working on, little listener? Trying to figure out if I can learn Dutch, sensei. Izuku signs, keeping his gaze locked on his shoes. Looks like today's going to be a nonverbal day. Mike smiles. It reminds Izuku of a sunny summer day. All right, little listener. And with those 3 words signed, present Mike moves on to helpo with his worksheet. Izuku pulled out number 17 again, splitting his attention between the 2 notebooks. Hey, little listener, you're being called down to Nizu's office. Present Mike tapped on his desk as he spoke. Izuku collected his things and made the trek to the Stoat's office. humming a tune Dad would sing when he cleaned around the house. Knocking on the door before opening it, Izuku nodded to both Nizu and Aizawa before sitting down in the last remaining chair. It's in the center of the room. Why was it in the center of the room? Hello, Drogo, or would you prefer Midoriya? Izuku froze. How the f did he find out? Did he know from the start and just lead them on? Slipping one of Nick's into his hands, Izuku stood, stabbing the blade into a stack of paper. It wasn't paperwork, thankfully. How the f do you know that? You been leading us on, Udaman Stoat. Nizu smiles. Well, you're one of the first to guess what I am correctly, but I haven't been leading you on. I knew from the start, yes, but I could tell you and Tamura were running from something. Midoriya Inko perhaps? Izuku snarled. Yeah, you gonna say the same shit All Might did about how she was only worried because her son went missing and is quirkless. I know for a fact your hands ain't tied. You're right, Midoriya. My hands aren't tied. I was simply waiting for the heat to die down, but it seems that I was mistaken to do so. Now, would you like our help? Izuku almost snapped. Like your help? You egotistical little sheet. Why the f? Do you think I even got on your radar in the first place if I wasn't going to use it? Gods and people think you're smart. Izuku snorts. I must be a genius then. Izuku pulls Nyx out of the stack of papers, and the desk, and glares at the other two men. Get your sheet together before you make a move. I don't want to have to put down two good dogs. The pair sat in silence for a few minutes. I think we were just scolded, Shoyuda. The next hurdle for Izuku was the sports festival. He took to training in the void with his mentors. Velis had been hunting his but with fans and ribbons, Munin and the vestiges alongside her. The only reason Izuku had even the smallest leg up was due to Fa Jean and Pull, his mother's quirk. The name she gave was too long. Pull was simple enough to allude to what the quirk was without giving anything away. Using Pull, Izuku threw a chunk of wreckage at his hunters, knocking Nana down. Grabbing a broken piece of rebar and using it to vault himself over the broken skyscraper. Daigoro tried to grab Izuku using Black Whip, but Izuku jumped away from the tendrils. Making his way down the side of the building using the fire escape, Izuku knew to keep his mentors on their toes. They might fall into somewhat of a pattern, but Izuku knows better than to be predictable. Equipping a steel and vibranium fan, along with a Nyx, the immortal teen faced off with Velis, someone he considered a mother figure. The pair danced around each other, only getting superficial hits in, nothing that would end the match and neither gaining the upper hand. Out of the vestiges, Ko and Yutaka were the hardest to fight. They both were underground and fought dirty. Izuku couldn't blame them for that. Fighting dirty keeps you alive. Yutaka had a speed-based quirk he called Flash based on a pre-quirk era comic. His mentors won that round, but Izuku had to admit, he held up well against them. Setting out of the void was like stepping out of a pool of water. It rippled and the feeling tickled Izuku's skin. Making his way to the cafeteria, well, Izuku tried to, but there was a giant crowding around the classroom of 1A. Damn it. The rumor mill must have got going about the USJ, and with the sports festival coming up, this wasn't just a social call. Slipping into the void and steeping out of people's shadows. Shadows were smaller and quicker gateways, no matter what they were tied to. Izuku slipped out of Tamura's shadow. Izuku made sure no one would see him before stepping out. What's going on? Alastair asked. He had the basic sure anyone could pick up on that if they had a functioning brain. 1BS making a scene. Something about how this blonde kid named Monoma thinks we're all egotistical. It's a mask, the kid wears it well sure, but it's starting to crack. Hums. Let me guess? The USJ and my spree. Denki slung an arm over Izuku's shoulder. His thread was a healthy forest green, liked, strong bond. It was still something to get used to seeing so many strong green threads. He needs to stop blocking the threads out. Ile isn't as bad as Aldria. Yet. Yeah man. He's been ranting about a declaration of war or something. Izuku groaned, ducking under Denki's arm and pushing his way to meet with this Monoma. Oh. If it isn't one of the famous USJ participants. Who are you exactly? Monoma's thread was white and of average strength, completely neutral bond. He had a smug grin on his face. Drogo Alastair. The triple core student who killed 70 people at the USJ to keep me and my brother's classmates and sensei alive. Manom left. You sure you are just trying to boost your ego? I thought all 1A did was wait for the pro to get there. Motherfucker did not just say that. Tamura had noticed the shift and swore in English, pushing through the crowd to get to Izuku. Gripping his brother's shoulder and squeezing, he knew the pain wouldn't register. Don't, you're already on thin ice, Sal. You might want to listen to your brother there, Drogo. Taking a deep breath, Izuku shrugged off Kenji's hand and lifted his shirt, letting the bullet wound and the other old scars he got before his first death show. He stared into Monoma's soul. The blonde boy was looking a little green. The villains didn't wait, so why should I? Izuku let his shirt drop back down, grabbed Tamura's wrist in a grip that would most likely break someone else's bones, and marched to the roof. FING assholes. Tamura, Izuku, Kyoka, Mizo, Denki, Koji, Eijiro, and Fumikage sat surrounding Izuku, not close enough to be suffocating. Izuku just lays down and stares up at the sky. It reminds him of the hero hopeful that died too soon, someone who's learned to care for the useless demon kid, the Deku. He lifts an arm, reaching for something he'll never be able to grasp without the life digging its claws in again. Hearing the roof access door open, the hinges squeaked if opened with a little too much force. There was Bakugo Katsuki in all his glory. Small pops were coming from Bakugo's clenched hands. He looked off. Can I talk to you alone? Bakugo looked awkward. He was never awkward. Tamura stood before Izuku, Mizo grabbing the younger Drogo and letting him lean against the multi-armed teen. L? You wanna, or no energy? This is important. Alastair stood with help from Denki and Mizo. The group of three moved to the stairwell, far enough wavy from the roof there would be no one listening in. The first thing Bakugo does is give a bow. If it gets any weirder, Izuku going to get the hell out. I'm sorry, Izuku. I thought that it was normal, back to what was going on in Aldra. It wasn't. I'm so sorry it took this long, but Auntie said that you went missing. I looked up anything I could on the Quirkless community and God, I'm so sorry for all the shit I and the others fuckers at Aldera put you through. Izuku nods, sitting on the floor and hugging Bakugo as the older boy cries. I know. I was never mad. Just hurt, which is worse. I knew you thought it was normal. You've been told for years that you had an amazing quirk and I would just bring you down. But I never went missing, Inko left. Then my dad, Hisashi, found me. I've been better off with Dad and Kenji than I ever was with Inko. Tamura stood behind the pair. Sighing, he runs a hand through his hair. Alright, if Zu accepts then I do too. But you better be genuine. If this is a prank I'll decay your hands. It's not. I already talked to Hobo about a fallback plan. I'll be swapped to Gen Ed, if it isn't too bad, and go through anger management. Zuku will go to 1A if I even make a single fuck up. If I fuck up real bad, I'm expelled and blacklisted from ever becoming a hero. And don't even think about trying to get me out of this, Zuku. I asked for these conditions. Izuku brushes Katsuki's hair out of his face, smiling at him. It's a shaky one, but they both know the younger one means it. If you had the thought to make a fallback plan, you won't fuck up again, Kat. But enough of that. Wanna eat lunch with us? Katsuki nods. Sure, doll. Tamura snorts at the nickname. Doll, let me guess, 'cause he's cute. Yeah, now if Doll's got a fake name, you got one. If I'm going to hang around, I ain't calling you Ikenji when we aren't here. Midoriya Tamura, nice to see some change in you, Kat. Tamura was smug with the nickname. A few small pops. Katsuki saw how Izuku flinched. He knew better than to be loud around his oldest friend. Go off in Katsuki's hands. Only Doll calls me Kat. Try that and you lose your hands, Tomu. The group of 9, 15 if you counted the ghosts and Dark Shadow, spent their lunch break chatting and getting to know Katsuki, who kept handing Izuku snacks even after he finished half his lunch. The group split off with quick waves, or hugs in Tamura's case, and a bag of chips in Katsuki's, to go to their classes. Izuku had a free PRD, so he just went back to the Gen Ed dorms. Izuku pulled number 17 of the analysis notebooks off his shelf and opened up the most recent video on a Spotlight hero named Cerberus. She was one of the few who Izuku liked that were Spotlight. She put saving people first. A knock startled Izuku out of his fervorous writing. Pushing his chair back, Izuku moves over to the door, opening it enough to see who's outside but not enough to let them in. It's Katsuki. He has his backpack and a tote bag. The blonde PPS and eyebrow. You gonna let me in, doll? Or should I just stand out here with dinner? Dinner? It was around 2-ish when I got back to the dorms. Izuku opened the door further. Katsuki moved past the white-haired teen and placed the tote bag on his desk. It's 6:30 Zu. You spent 4 hours taking analysis notes. If the stack of notebooks is anything to go by. I brought katsudon, tendon, and some kimchi. Katsuki was sitting on Izuku's bed and handed him a bowl of katsudon and a sweet tea. What notebook did you start on? Looks like you went through 6 in 4 FING hours. That's gotta be a new record. Started on number 17, and I'm up to 23 now. At least that isn't just word vomit. Those are near the hundreds, I think. Katsuki whistled. Ding, you know you can take a break, right? Says the guy who's training every day after school. Katsuki shoved Izuku with his shoulder. Yeah, and hey, you're coming home with me for the weekend. The hag and old man want to see me, and there's no way in hell I'm letting you go back to Inko from what you told me. Alright, I've been wanting to see Aunt Mitsuki and Uncle Maso. How have they been doing, by the way? Inko never really let me out of the apartment much once she got home. Katsuki scoffed. The hag and old man are doing fine. Hag's been arguing with Inko a lot, but given that she met her through Uncle Sashi, it's not that hard on her to cut Inko out. Izuku placed his dishes onto his desk and laid down on his bed, Katsuki moving around him to collect the dishes and pack them away. I've got to get heading out. You want to run tomorrow, Zu? The younger boy hummed. Yeah, if I don't stay up super late. You need sleep. Don't think I didn't notice those eye bags. The sports festival was getting closer. Izuku upped the lessons with Aizawa and even trained with his friends, and won most of the spars. All Might was a shitty teacher. How can you keep kicking our buttes and not break a sweat? Kyoka asked, drinking from her water bottle. I knew I would have to push myself farther to get even near the leg up your quirks give you. But the reason I'm having you guys use my training scheduled is that All Might's terrible at his job, if you can call it one. Mizo laughed. Yeah, I prefer Aizawa-sensei, and he's not even as scary as you are with this training, Al. Izuku rubbed the back of his neck. Sorry. Just want you guys not to end up dead as soon as you debut due to half-butted teaching from someone who doesn't even have a teaching license. Katsuki charged from Izuku's left, trying to catch the teen off guard but ending up flipped over his shoulder with a knife to his throat instead. Izuku's eyes were cold. Tamura recognized the look and waved off everyone else before even thinking of moving in. He circled the pair, hands out and open to show he had no weapons, making sure every move he made was seen by his younger brother. Hey, little man. What's the date? It's April 5th, 2056. Tamura nodded, moving to the left so he was directly in Izuku's line of sight. Alright, mind telling me your full name? And where we are right now? Midoriya Uroboros Izuku, we're at the USJ. Tamura cursed internally. This was a problem. Alright, can you tell me who's pinned under you? Izuku's eyes moved around the room, cataloging everything. Some random goon that almost killed Koji. The knife was dug a little further into Katsuki's throat, drawing a small amount of blood. Kyoka, get hound dog. No one else, anyone else enters this room and we might lose both of them. Mizo, stand guard outside the door, no one in or out. The two moved, following Tamura's slow movements from earlier. Izuku reached for another knife. As soon as the pair were out of the room, Izuku's eyes were back onto Tamura, who was sitting cross-legged on the mat and his hands away from his body and palms facing outwards. That's Bakugo Katsuki, Izuku. You were hanging out with him yesterday. He brought you dinner 'cause I asked him to make sure you ate something. But follow my breathing, alright? Count in for 1, hold for 5, out for 4. Okay. Izuku could hear the gunshots and the screams of his brother's classmates and his friends. He could feel the bullets going through his heart, brain, and eye. He could see Aizawa almost getting crushed by the Nomu, who could be able to disregard orders. Why didn't he disregard the order? Izuku, Bubba. You gotta breathe, okay? Izuku nodded, his hands shaking. breathing in for 1 count, holding for 5, and out for 4. Tamura must have grabbed Nyx at some point given that it wasn't in his hands anymore. Pushing himself off of Katsuki, he almost killed Kat. And tucking his knees into his chest, Izuku gripped his hair. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. I'm sorry. A set of arms hugged Izuku gently. He fights it. He can't be restrained again. He doesn't want to see Inko. It's alright, pup. No one blames you for having a flashback, alright? Do you want to go back to my office for lunch? I can put on a comfort show and you can relax." Hound Dog's voice was calm. Bakugu had moved over to Shoji, who was going to carry him to Recovery Girl. "Let go, I don't want to be restrained again." "Oh, this poor pup, he's been through more than most pro heroes, let alone anyone his age." As soon as Izuku mumbled those words, Hound Dog let go. Did someone restrain this kid in the past due to flashbacks? No wonder he was so hesitant about their first meeting. "Kenji, I imagine you'll explain why Alastair said a different name than what's on record?" he asked the teen, getting a nod in response. "Yeah, just help my little brother first. Studio Ghibli movies and some D&D streams should help. Critical Role, Campaign 1 specifically. Stay away from the Briarwood arc, that'll just set the flashback off again. Stick with Studio Ghibli until he gives the go-ahead for Critical Role, and strip him of every weapon. Make it a trade. A weapon for something soft or something that'll keep his hands or even something for him to chew on that isn't his hands. He'll bite them until they bleed if he starts to slip again. Food-wise, Katsudon would be good along with some red Gatorade." Tamura's voice had an edge to it when he explained how to help Izuku. Hound Dog wasn't surprised the older boy was well-versed in what would help his brother after a flashback or episode. He and his father must have dealt with a few before Izuku came to UA. Izuku sat across from Hound Dog, my neighbor Totoro playing on the TV. Izuku had to trade all of one of his sets of Nyx in, but he got a big soft plush of fat gum along with a chewable silicone dagger. Lunch Rush had brought a tray of food, dropping it off at the door. Hound Dog placed the tray in front of the young boy he considered one of his own. Most of the staff that met the boy were of a similar mind when it came to caring for the Drogo Midoriya boys. Izuku ate half of the bowl of Katsudon, not feeling very hungry. My neighbor Totoro finished a while ago and Spirited Away was playing. Izuku was still a little out of it. He couldn't feel his fingers along with his ears still ringing. "How are you doing, pup?" Izuku stares out the window. His thoughts are scattered and hazy. "I can't feel my hands. My ears keep ringing and I feel kind of floaty. Oh, this poor kid." Rio wants to hug the boy. "Can I hug you, Izuku?" The pup nodded weakly, and Rio wraps an arm around the boy, making sure not to squeeze tight and to keep one arm by his side so the pup doesn't feel trapped. The boy smells like the earth, flowers, and a nice summer breeze, but also gunpowder, soot, and oil. Such a complex smell to fit such a complex child. Tamura was being stared down at every angle. His friends could wait for the more in-depth answer. Teachers needed to be quelled first. "So, you know why we changed our names. Inko's a surprisingly hard woman to get away from, even when she doesn't use her quirk. But that can get explained another time. But Izuku's had flashbacks before. That's an Inko thing. But yeah, even though Izuku's got what we've taken to calling soldier mode, what he does still affects him, even if it's a delayed response." "And would you explain this Inko thing once you two get back under your father's care and become wards of U.A?" Tamura glared. "At the stoat. Why do we need to become wards of U.A? Dad's a good parent." Nizu's paws went up. "I didn't mean to imply that. It's just extra protection given what your brother had to go through due to the commission." "Now, what's soldier mode?" Tamura rubbed the back of his neck, decaying some skin off. "That's a bit hard to explain." But Izuku split himself into different modes based on what type of situation he was in. One of bullying or scorn would be Aldra mode or Inko mode depending on what age the offender is. Appear it's Aldra mode. An authority figure kicks in Inko mode. Soldier is more complicated, that can mix for lack of a better word with any of the other masks, and crops up during flashback or event times where someone, or rarely Izuku himself, is in danger. I say rarely due to the other mode. Those are more common when it comes to peers and known adults. This isn't the first time I've seen soldier mode being worn due to the mistake or misaction of someone else. I and Dad have set off soldier before and paid pretty heavily for it. It'd be on file, but Izuku's quirkless so no one will give him the time of day. Most would just throw him into a padded cell. The modes are more of a trauma response than anything. He needed them to make sure he saw his next sunrise. Tamura took a sip of water before continuing. Speaking of sunrises, Izuku needs to see the sunrise every morning. It was one of the few ways he convinced himself he was still breathing and not just bleeding out in bed, hallucinating. Same with the stars. Keeps him from a complete shutdown. Those are where he reverts fully back to a mix of all three modes. I heard about it from Dad and it didn't end well, and Dad caught it when it was just starting. Hound Dog and Aizawa would be best, and given their schedules, Hound Dog would do sunrises and Aizawa stars. May and I might join from time to time, but it's more a time for Izuku to build a rapport with trusted adults. It's a new thing for both of us, him more than me. But, are you guys okay with the whole fake name thing? We lied outright to you. Tamura was waiting for the backlash and yelling, but all he got was a flick to the back of the head. Turning, Tamura saw Katsuki glaring at him. Doll's mental well-being is more important than something stupid like a fake name, dry lips. Inko tried to kill Izuku for at least 100 times minimum in a decade. Can we see Izuku soon? Denki had sparks going off between his fingers. Sorry, Denver. You might set him off again. One of his old bullies had an electricity quirk and used it on him. That's why he flinched the one time I came into your dorm? Oh, he made me a pair of rubber gloves, right? To wear to help me control the output. Yeah, as May for them. She'll hand them over pretty quick. The blonde hummed, leaving Recovery Girl's office to pick up the gloves. Will Izuku be alright though? From the sound of it, a complete shutdown. Even the start of one is a terrible thing. Tamura shrugged. I trust Hound Dog. He should have gotten Izuku somewhat present. It can take a little while depending on how deep he's gone. Koji, can you, Fumikage, and Mizo stop by? You're the quietest three in the group right now, and talking might be hard, so JSL would probably be better. Of course. Fumikage nodded, dark shadow curling around his neck. We don't mind checking on the star. Mizo shrugged. I'll bring some snacks down. Izuku fell asleep at some point, possibly around 1:15, Ryo noted. He was cleaning up the dishes and plushies Izuku had collected when there was a knock at the door. Come in, although be quiet about it, please. I have a student sleeping. 3 of Izuku's friends entered, Koda, Shoji, and Tokyoyami, along with Dark Shadow. Shoji was holding a few boxes of snacks, must have grabbed them from lunch rush. We didn't realize Izuku was sleeping. We'll drop the snacks off and leave him be. He needs some sleep. Koda signed, so Tamura must have explained a few things to his friends then. It was a good thing to see they stuck around. Ryo collected the snacks and smiled at the boys, ushering them out quickly. Izuku woke with a thud. Oh, why was I sleeping on a couch? You needed a break after a flashback, Izuku. You fell asleep, you looked like you needed the rest. Hound Dog said, holding out a hand. Taking the hand, Izuku stood on wobbly legs. Giving a small smile to Hound Dog in thanks, he sat back onto the couch, pulling a blanket over his lap. So, you were there when Tamura was asking his questions? Who else knows? Yes, Nizu knows. Along with your friends and your teachers, and only your teachers. I would have specified if Nizu told the entire staff. But how are you feeling? Izuku rubbed the back of his neck. Pretty good. I feel like I'm here again, so that's progress. Do I have to go back with Inko? Hound Dog's eyes widened at the last question. No, your father has custody again along with you, Tamura, and Katsuki being wards of U.A, as extra protection, so nothing like you going back to an abuser happens again. Nizu is simply another legal guardian for you 3, nothing more. No one on the staff is trying to replace your father. Izuku nodded, collecting his things and leaving. He made his way to the Gen Ed dorms and slept after Kin forced a bowl of soup into his hands and made sure he ate half of it.